Joey and Friendz here to save the day. Talking about dolls and making our own way. Talking to visionaries, dreamers, and kin. Anyone can play here cause we all fit in. From Darcy to body, from dawn to glimmer. We talk about world as the lights grow dimmer. Follow us to a playground filled with stories. And let us entertain you with tales of our glories.
Hi, everybody. I'm Joey Dollmaker Versaw, and I am here with Julian Kalinowski. We're so happy to have you here on the channel, and I can't wait to dive into your mind and get a look inside.
Well, I'm so honored that you've asked me to be on your show, and I've loved the previous episodes. I loved Ernesto and the Tiny Ribbons lady, and obviously and Mel, of course. You know,
Of
and they were
course, yeah.
great.
Oh,
Yes,
good. I'm so glad.
absolutely adore your work and think that you're an absolutely genius sculptor and an
Oh,
artist, and very much admire you. And so, you know, extremely honored that you should select me as an interview. Thank you.
oh, well, thank you so much. I mean, you're really you're such a star in the indie doll world. I mean, you really have put in so much work, time, and effort, and you've made so many beautiful dolls, and you've made such a big impact on the doll world. I mean, I couldn't think of anybody better to be able to have this interview with because everything that you do is so substantial, and it really resonates with so many people. You just have a style that can't be replicated and is only yours from your life experiences and everything that you've experienced, what you've been able to do. And it really shows in the work of your dolls, there's a really personal element to them where they really do reflect a part of you. And it's
Ditto, Joey. I mean, same with you. I think it's in that sense, our work is very alike. It's coming from the same place.
yeah,
You know, I
yeah.
can see all your, like me, all my obsessions and fixations, and I
Yeah.
can see it all in your work equally clearly. You know,
Yeah.
absolutely, yes.
Well, I'm excited to hear this story about the fur coat and the girl at school.
Well, when I was a kid, I grew up in a very kind of narrow, um, very narrow way. I mean, my parents were immigrants. They were Polish. My father had been a soldier, and my mother had been in a work camp. And they met after the war, and they came to England, and they were put into social housing. So my parents were really fixated that my two sisters, who were much older than me, and that I should have a good education so that we wouldn't have this life. And but I was a very exhibitionistic child, so I didn't really have a voice. So, you know, because children don't really, you know, they don't really
Right.
have any real autonomy. So I would dress up, and I always really loved dressing up. And my eldest sister, who's 20 years older than me, I really wanted this black and white fur coat with black and white pom-poms.
Oh, I love that.
And I used to wear it around you know, the social housing estate was really rough, really rough. Also, I think probably different from in America because really integrated. So blacks, Indians, Polacks, English people, but kind of white trash, frankly. And it was really tough.
Yeah.
But I had this thing about me. I would just walk around wearing this fur coat, and I got incredibly hassled, you
Oh
know,
no.
all the time. But I kind of like my eldest sister said to me, she was really great. I mean, everybody knew I was gay because I was such an obviously gay kid because I was so effeminate and you know, so specific. And so she bought me this coat, but she would say lovely things to me like, don't forget, you're better than those other kids. You're better than those other boys. You're different, but you're better. And when you're 6, that really goes in. So she gave me a lot of confidence.
That's amazing.
And my parents found me a complete object of horror. It was like, where did this come from?
Hmm.
Did this come from outer space?
Hmm.
And my sisters would say, oh, because they were hippies, they'd say, oh, he's one of the new kids from the age of Aquarius. He's different from this is a new generation, and he's an example of what's going to happen. Which
Right.
in a lot of ways was actually,
Very
it's
true.
great.
Yeah. And
And
I imagine I think about what do you call it? John Waters. I think about growing up watching John Waters films. I think they were kind of empowering in that same sense that you're talking about of like you're different and you stand out, but that almost becomes a power in a way, because you when you embrace that, then it's like fuck you world.
yeah, I knew my ideas were different, but I didn't have the vocabulary to articulate what it was that was my difference. But I could do
Yeah.
it visually because I knew that I would get the effect that I wanted by dressing up. And I continued dressing up for, most of my life. And it wasn't until relatively recently that I feel that the ideas in my mind are so much more extreme than they ever were when I was young. But I know I no longer need to express it visually. It
Yeah.
was a sort of a product of my inarticulacy that I dressed up like that, and also uh, I felt like even within the family they were trying to break me down, and it was like it's okay for you to be absolutely anything that you want to be as long as it's not yourself,
Right.
and it was like, no,
Yeah, yeah.
the more they behaved like that, the more extreme I became.
So when you had mentioned the fur coat, you also had mentioned something about a girl with a Barbie case.
Yeah, there was so I went to a convent school, and it was very mixed. And in terms of social class, remember I'm in England, so
Yeah.
we have this quite rigid social class system. So we've got poor kids, we've got middle class kids. Middle class in England is different from how you perceive it in America. Middle class is your affluent majority, and
Hmm.
upper class kids. And there was this girl, and she came from a really rich family, and she was sitting next to me, and she'd had a gift from her aunt in America, and it was, one of these beautiful trunks, and she opened it, and like in a film noir, like there's one in specific one where there's this case, and they open it, and there's atomic energy in it, and this light pours out of it.
Yeah.
She opened this case, and it was like this light just poured out of it, and it was just filled with, well, I mean, I don't know exactly what they were, but definitely
Yeah.
twists and turns and Francis and Skippers, all from the
Right.
late 60s, all in those really fantastic, crazy,
Vibrant.
psychedelic outfits. And it was just like,
Yeah.
oh my God, this is so great. And I was so, so envious.
Yeah.
And I was bitter. It's like a bitterness that stays with me for my entire life. Why can't I have those dolls?
Right.
It was really like getting blood out of a stone to get a Barbie out of my mom. So what
Yeah.
I had to do was there was a kid's birthday party, and my mom said, "Oh, we'd better get you a present to take her for her birthday." I must have been about 9,
Yeah.
and we went to the toy store, and there was a standard Barbie, and that was the cheapest one. It was like
Right.
99 pence or £1.50.
Yeah.
And I said, "Oh, buy her that." So she did. Foolishly, she bought this doll. It was the one time I caught her out. So we got home, and she's like, "Well, where's the doll?" And I'm like, "What doll?"
Yeah.
She's like, "Where's the doll?" Well, she never got it back. I mean, so
Wow.
that was my Barbie, and I had to get it through deceit. So
Yeah.
that's what I learned through that
Yeah.
experience, was how to deceive.
Oh, I love that. For Barbie. We do it for Barbie. That's so cool. How fun is that? So that's why the standard Barbie, because I'd asked you some years back what your favorite Barbie was, and that's why standard must be your favorite Barbie because she's the
Yeah.
one that, yeah.
There's that, but it's also the simplicity of her.
Yes,
You know, the
yes.
five basic points of movement. She's prettier than a ponytail or a bubble cut to me. And I like the fact that she doesn't have eyelashes. I like the simplicity of it.
Yeah, I do too. I really appreciate her. And I love the hard-legged body with that pink, plastic of the era. It just is, it's so much prettier than the predecessors.
Much prettier,
Yeah,
isn't it?
yeah, it's
Yeah.
beautiful. Now if only the vinyl of the heads didn't start fading or discoloring.
I know, I know.
It's horrifying.
But I mean, there's always writ, isn't there?
That's very true. And people seem to learn new tricks and new secrets all the time. So, Marnie, the movie, that's where we're going next.
Oh, that was a really pivotal moment as well because I saw this movie on the television, Marnie, and it's Tippi Hedren, and she disguises herself. She's like this beautiful girl who's actually a criminal. And, she disguises herself with these wigs or with glasses. And she made a really big impact on me. I thought, I want to be like that. I want to
Yeah.
be this beautiful girl who wears wigs and can make herself up to look different and who can. I just love disguise. I always loved disguise. Later, when I became more sophisticated about ideas about my own gender, then I also really enjoyed disguising myself as different types of men. But as a child, it was, of course, much easier to look like a girl. And that
Yes.
was
Yeah.
like a big thing for me. And I really, it had just a huge impact on me.
I'm surprised you didn't end up being a drag queen.
But I was,
Yeah.
but I never really saw it as being a drag queen. I, I never understood how garments could denote gender. It didn't really make any sense to me.
Right.
So when I was a teenager, I would do things like wear a bra underneath my t-shirts and things, or I often wear women's shoes. Um, a lot of that was also to do with the band the New York Dolls, who I really really loved, who were kind of real tough guys, New York hoodlums, but
Yeah.
they wore these amazing clothes and they mixed stuff together. So they'd wear women's shoes with teased up hair, and then punk happened, and punk was
Right.
a huge thing for me because I didn't want to label myself as anything, and most of us in that moment didn't.
Yeah.
And I was very young to be involved in it because my parents are really, really elderly. So by that point, they'd kind of given up on me really. So I was just allowed to do what I wanted.
Yeah.
So there was no curfew. In fact, if I didn't come back at night, they'd probably have been really relieved.
We have a very similar story as far as that's concerned. Yeah.
Do we?
Oh yeah, yeah. I was I basically I wasn't terrible like a terrible child, but I was going to do what I wanted to do. And I was taking a bus from a suburban, middle class neighborhood and taking a bus to downtown. And I was going to this underage nightclub that they had called the City Nightclub. And I mean, at 13 years old, and
Yeah.
my mom was just like, whatever, like at that point, go do what you need to do.
So we're very similar.
Yeah.
Same. So I had a slightly older friend, and he had a car because I was 13, he was 16, so he was driving. So he used to take me to these punk gigs. So like I'm going to see Susie and the Banshees when I'm 13, and when you see that when you're that age, people look so amazing,
Amazing. Yeah.
and and the energy was so great, and the vibe was really fantastic because it was like a safe umbrella we could all kind of shelter under. So if we were gay, if we were black, if we were a girl, whoever we were,
Yeah.
we weren't, we were just a punk. We were all just
Right.
punks. And I'll give you a really good example. When I was a little bit older, I'd never met a gay person. And I was hanging out at that point with these anarchists. And they were those kind of anarchist punks that had the really
Yeah.
big spiky hair, and they were really great. And I was hanging out with them, and they said, we're going to go to London and we're going to go record shopping, because they used to sell records at the punk gigs locally. So they said, oh, we're going to meet this guy, Costa. He's so great. So we meet Costa, and it's been raining. So he's drenched. He's wearing like a fur coat. He's got a women's headscarf tied around his chin.
Yeah.
He's poured a whole bottle of perfume over himself that he's stolen from the department store. He's got bondage trousers and a pornographic T-shirt with this image of these, like a gay orgy.
Yeah.
And he's so camp.
Yeah.
But it was forbidden to say anything about Costa being that, because Costa was just cool by virtue of being brave, and he was one of us. So like one of my biggest lessons about acceptance and tolerance and how great people can be didn't come from the gay scene. It came from straight people on the punk scene, actually.
Yeah, that was my experience too before I started going to the nightclub. I was hanging out with the bad kids, that were the ones that had the more, I guess, more heavy metal crowd. They were like, they had Metallica t-shirts and they were more, whatever, but they were the ones who accepted me. They were the ones that, it didn't matter that I was effeminate and that I was, doing my own thing. They embraced that.
They took you as they found you,
Yeah,
for your ideas and your sensibilities, not for the unimportant stuff. I mean, that's
exactly.
just, to me, it's just
That's what got me
unimportant.
started to smoke at 12 years old.
Oh, with me, it was seeing that movie Paper Moon
Oh,
with
yeah.
Ryan O'Neal and Tatum O'Neal, and
Yeah.
I was 10, and I was the same age as her, and I was devastated because Tatum is smoking. She's called Addie Prey. Addie's smoking. She's got a cigar box. She's been grifting and like getting money out of these stupid people, and she's really smart and sassy. And we were the same age, and I felt so old. I
Yeah.
thought, oh my God, we're the same age, but she's so much more advanced than me. And I immediately took up smoking,
Wow.
because like it was like, it was the funny generation, because it's the sort of opposite, I think, to now, or what happened, a few years ago, where, I think people grow up very slowly now, but my
Yeah.
generation grew up really fast. If you hadn't left home by 16, people thought that there was something weird about you.
Right.
Of course, economically, people can't do that now. So,
Yeah.
and I understand that I was very lucky to be born into that generation, because we had a lot of privilege, because we could live for nothing.
Yeah. No, that's amazing. So
Especially in England, you could really live for nothing.
yeah. What was a university like?
Well, as I said earlier, my parents were really, this was the one thing they were really strict about, because my eldest sister Basha was really academic, and she studied Russian, and she became the Eastern European representative for the Wellcome Foundation. She was very, very career oriented and very ambitious.
Yeah.
And then she's 20 years older than me. And then my sister Ursula, who's 15 years older than me, she became a teacher, and then she became a head teacher, and then she became a school inspector. And the expectations on me being the male child were even greater. You know, it was like you're going to have to be a lawyer or a barrister or a doctor. But
Right.
I didn't want the same life as my sisters had had. I just wanted to be, all I wanted to do was be completely free and drift. That drifting through life was my dream. I wanted to be a bohemian. I wanted to spend my life just sitting in cafes or going to nightclubs, dancing all night. I wanted to meet all kinds of different people. And I
Yeah.
just really wanted to live in that really extreme way.
Yeah.
And so when I went to university, I didn't study at all. I just immediately started hanging out with these two girls, these black twins, and their boyfriends would break into chemists. It was a bit like drugstore cowboy. So that's all I learned about was, uh, amateur burgling.
Yeah. Hey, you know.
That was what interested me. I wanted to learn about life.
Yeah.
I thought I can return to academia later, or or I can teach myself this stuff. I was studying art
Right.
history,
Yeah.
but and then while I was at university, there was a magazine here called Time Out, and everything, there was no social media. So if you wanted to know anything about anything that was going on, you had to buy this magazine, and there was a little tiny picture of this guy called Lee Bowery with these two guys, and he looked so great. And I thought, wow, this looks as exciting as punk. And I was just that little bit too young to be a proper punk. So I thought, I'm moving to London because I was studying in Leicester, which is, like the Midlands of England. So
Yeah.
I went back home. My parents went berserk. They went berserk. But I was very lucky. It's terrible, really, but it worked for me. That's when the AIDS crisis started.
Right.
So I went to Brixton Town Hall. Brixton's a South London neighborhood, and I said, look, I haven't got anywhere to live, and I'm gay. And they assumed then, if you were gay, that you were going to die in 6 months. So they gave
Right.
me an apartment, which was on the ground floor. All the Queens got apartments on the ground floor because it was much easier to get an ambulance to them
Yeah.
rather than going up the stairs and getting the body down. You see, so
Yeah.
we all had ground floor apartments. So I had this great apartment, and then I met this. I had an Iranian boyfriend. I had an Iranian boyfriend. Actually, he was
Scandalous.
he was great. He was really great. He had really great taste. He was really into the 50s, and he had a 50s hairdo, and his whole apartment was all done out in what we now call mid-century. But it was really cheap. Nobody wanted it. This is before all those hit magazines, and people's interiors were, set up as much about them really as their clothes. And he had a
Yes.
really great apartment, and we were on the same scene. So I moved to London, and I started going to this nightclub called Taboo, which was Lee Bowery's nightclub, which has become a kind of a legend, really.
Yeah.
And but I went to from the second night onwards, and there were only like 20 people there, but
Yeah.
those people were amazing people.
Yeah.
So it was a really great scene, and again, very safe.
Hmm.
So outside of that world, there's immense homophobia. There's the
Yeah.
AIDS thing going on. So, if you're around at somebody's apartment and you take a drink, you kind of notice like a few minutes later that they're trying to put it somewhere so they can bleach it later, just in
Right.
case. You remember all that?
Oh,
Or are you
yeah.
too young to remember it?
No, I remember.
Yeah, it was horrible.
Yeah.
So within that milieu of people, we were all safe,
Yeah.
except for the ones that died, because everybody, like Mel spoke about,
Yeah.
we had seen more deaths. I'd seen more deaths at the age of 23 than I think your average 90-year-old has seen,
Yeah.
So you became very hardened to it because you had
Yeah.
no choice,
I was
You
lucky
couldn't.
to be on the kind of the upswing. where,
Yeah.
you know, I still experienced a little bit of it at a young age, seeing it, but I didn't experience it as close as like Mel did, where he had tons of friends that were dropping and, you know, whatnot. I was young enough that it had kind of most of that had passed, and I just got the tail end of experiencing a little bit of it as it went into the, you know, 80s and 90s, and things were, you know, a little better, or the late 80s and 90s. Yeah.
Yeah, it was horrible. It was
Yeah.
really horrible. But because we all thought we were going to die, I thought I thought I was dying. Everybody thought we all thought we were going to die. So we lived really hard,
Yeah.
and I think that's where all my intention to fit in as much life as I possibly can came from, because my sisters would be saying things like, "Oh, you need to start thinking about your pension," and I'd think, "Oh my God, the audacity of these people! Do they really just are they so they're just taking for granted that they're
Yeah.
going to live that long?" And
Yeah.
I knew that that wasn't the case. I thought that that was just incredibly what's the word? Um, well, this entitlement that you can't take life for granted.
No.
And I'd already learned that because I had friends whose parents wouldn't visit them, and I had another friend, and we had to have him sectioned because he went mad, and his parents wouldn't come down and deal with it. So we're
Yeah.
like 22, 23, and we're having to do all this stuff at the mental hospital. But his parents were really respectable people. And
Right.
that's when I really started to despise
Mhm.
respectable people. And that's when
Oh,
I started to see the
yeah.
hypocrisy.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. When I was about 16, I was in a horrible car accident with two girls that were the daughters of a preacher, and they were on drugs. They were on mushrooms, and I mean drugs, you know, but mushrooms, and I think, and they were, you know, passing around smoking pot. I hadn't done mushrooms, but I was taking a hit of the weed, and the one girl was driving and one was in the back seat and I was in the passenger seat, and we got into this accident, and my head went through the windshield, and thank God, I just cut myself really bad on my forehead. I was bleeding. But the girls drove to their home afterwards, directly after this happened. They drove to the home, and because the car was still drivable and everything. And their mother, the preacher's wife, you know, comes out on the front lawn, and here I am standing and bleeding, and she took her daughters inside and told me to go catch the bus, you know. And at that point in time, I remember thinking, okay, I see you. You know, I see where this is, and so even though I grew up where I felt very spiritual, and I did feel a very spiritual connection to God or the universe or whatever, and when I was younger, I actually sought churches and whatnot that might, you know, accept me or whatever. But after that experience, I realized, like, oh, okay, even though those people are supposed to be the good people, they're not your people, you know?
Yes, when I was at convent school, I was six,
Yeah.
and I was taught by nuns and priests, and there was a nun called Sister Teresa, and there was a girl called Debbie Green, and I overheard Sister Teresa saying to Debbie, "Debbie, you're not going to go to heaven. You're going to go to purgatory." And Debbie said, "Why is that, Sister Teresa?" And Sister Teresa replied, "Because you weren't baptized, or it was either you weren't baptized or you weren't christened. It was
Right.
one or the other." And I remember standing there and just thinking, you don't say that to a 6-year-old kid. There's something
Yeah.
wrong with you.
Yeah.
And it was at that age that I became an atheist.
Yeah.
And I had to go to church every Sunday because my parents, they weren't really religious, but it was just like you had to be seen to go to church because the
Right.
twitching neck curtains, you know, people peeping, oh, not only is the son a raging homosexual, but he doesn't even go to church. You know, so I had to go to church right up until I left home.
Wow.
But I'm a spiritual person too, but I have my own thing going on, and
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
there are different words meaning the same thing. So
Yeah.
I have a belief in God, if you like, but
Yeah.
certainly not organized religion. No.
Right. Same here. Yeah. I also I'm very curious about the escort girls, the strippers and the escort girls.
Oh, so when I moved to, so I'm living in London, and I'm for 5 years I live with my my Persian Iranian. He preferred to call himself Persian. He'd lived there during the old regime, and you know, it was very westernized, and he was very westernized. He had an American accent because he'd learned to speak English through watching American movies,
Yeah.
and you know, immensely cultured man with an immensely cultured family. But we broke up, and but I all the while I was living with him, I had that other flat, so that was like the Molly house. So in the 18th century here in England, you had these places called Molly houses where gay men could just hang out. So that my flat became a hangout. So
Yeah.
if people had nowhere to sleep or they just wanted to pick up sex and have sex with someone somewhere or take drugs or dress up or whatever they wanted to do,
Right.
they
Right.
just hung out at my flat. And my best friends then, you know, my best female friends then, they all worked as in not actually escort agencies. They weren't doing prostitution. They were doing that thing where, you know, they had to chat up Japanese businessmen, and
Right.
you know, we had to get by. So we did these kind of marginal jobs, but they were quite well paid because you know, ordinary people didn't want to do them because they were associated with you know, the unrespectable side of
Right.
life. Yeah, but I learned a lot from them because, especially one of them, my friend Beth, who became Billy Madley, she became a fabulous burlesque stripper in New York a little bit later. She was she was so amazing because she looked like a movie star 24/7. You know, she would do her eyebrows with a biro pen, and her makeup was perfect, and she'd set her hair traditionally, and she really did look like she'd stepped right out of the 40s. And I know that became like quite a common look later, but it
Yeah.
wasn't
Yeah.
then.
Yeah.
So you know, she made a huge impression on me in terms of that kind of uh,
Trend setting.
well, exaggeration.
Yeah.
I like exaggeration. Diana Vreeland, you know, she said that, who I really adore. She said that, you know, that's what the geisha learn. They learn through different stages of doing their makeup really heavily and
Yeah.
really overdressing themselves, but then they finally learn refinement and real elegance, but through exaggeration. And I always really, I wouldn't have been able to articulate what I just said to you back then, but it was
Right.
kind of an idea in my head that I just really loved it. You know, when people, I just loved dressing up, and
Yeah.
I loved glamour, traditional glamour,
Yeah.
and I loved crazy girls. But unfortunately, later on in life, they really did turn into Blanche Dubois, and they became a little bit more difficult to cope with.
I hear
So
you.
yeah, the flat was, well. That's how I started collecting Barbie, because there were these really, really great Japanese kids that went to Taboo, and At that time, Japan was having an economic miracle, and they were really rich. The
Yeah.
yen was worth so much, and so there was Maba, Toshiko, and Kotomi, and Toshiko was great. She was straight out of a John Waters film. She was a little bit overweight, which Japanese girls generally aren't,
Yeah.
and she would wear a leopard coat with just a bra and panties and stilettos, and she had a bubble cut. She actually had a bubble cut, you know,
Wow.
like that she'd set in curlers, and she had very limited English. Like if you were on the subway with her and somebody looked at her, she would say, "What you fucking looking at?" And that was about all she could say in English. But she was
Yeah.
so punk rock.
Yeah.
And Toshiko had gone off. She'd gone back to Tokyo, and she'd come back, and it was a Saturday morning, and I went over to the Molly house, and Toshiko's like, "Ah, I've got a present for you," and she gave me this pink box, you
Yeah.
know, this like plain pink box with the Barbie logo on it, and I opened it, and it was one of those PB store Maba dolls, and it
Yeah.
was that I didn't know at the time what it was, but it was the twist and turn head sculpt and
Yeah.
lashes and long brunette hair, and she was wearing a French maid's outfit, and it was just fuck. This is just the most fabulous doll I've ever seen. And then
Yeah.
she also gave me the Little Blue Manos book, the little
Oh, yes.
collector's
Yeah.
book,
Yeah.
and that was it. I just became literally obsessed, and it's an obsession that's been, you know, that's remained with me for my entire
Yeah.
life.
The
You know, what
pink
a
and blue
gift.
Manos books I obsessed over too. I had both the blue and pink ones, and I just remember countless evenings, hours and hours just going through those books and, dreaming.
I know, and the prices in them were like, you know, $40 for an NRFB, whatever. Of course, they were, you know, even
Right.
then. But
Yeah.
I know that's when I started collecting,
That's
and
amazing.
I think the first vintage Barbie I got was a really quite, you know, boring, dirty blonde bubble cut, and that was in 1987,
Yeah.
and I paid £30 for that then. You know,
Yeah.
actually, Barbie was expensive then.
Yeah.
Around that time, I'm doing styling work, and I'm working with a girl called Cheryl Hubbard, who's a photographer. And I had a friend called Laura. She'd already flown a group of us out to Los Angeles to do a London Fashion Week in LA. So she, you know, we became really good friends, and so I would like. It was really cheap to travel then, or you could fly for nothing. They'd give you documents, and you had to deliver these documents at the airport. I mean, God knows what they were. It
Yeah.
was a bit like, you know, but so you would deliver these documents to this person, and your flight was free. So I would go and stay with Laura, and we lived off nothing. I mean, her parents were well off, and we had a nice apartment, but we didn't have any money. We
Yeah.
lived off of the clippings in the back of the LA Weekly for free. You know, get one frozen yogurt and get one free, and
Right.
um, so in LA, that's where I also started to find Barbies on the first Field Lily I ever saw was on Melrose Avenue. There was a
Oh,
shop called Weird Stuff, and it had really great, you know, really crazy stuff in it, like extreme mid-century stuff and really fabulous 40s things, all kinds of things, objects and furniture. And there was this doll behind the counter, and she had a little red bikini, and it was a lily. It was a beautiful lily, and she was $300. I remember she was $300. I mean, I didn't have $3. You know, I mean, there was no way I could have bought it. But that was the first time I ever saw one.
yeah.
Was then, and I really wanted one. Um,
My
and then
first, oh, sorry, didn't mean to
no,
interrupt.
no, no, no. Go
I
ahead.
was
Go
just
ahead.
saying my first experience with the Lily was through Billy Boy's book. on Barbie, and that was my first experience of like, oh, learning about Lily, and I really became quite obsessed with her. And I remember in 2000, the year 2000, I was on eBay, very early eBay, and I was bidding on a lily in her tube on eBay, and I lost. She sold for $101, and I remember saying, "That's ridiculous for a clone." That's what that's what I said then. Like.
Oh, that's so funny.
But anyways, continue. I'm sorry.
No, no.
Yeah.
So then what happened? Then a friend of mine, Casey Brown, took me to a show. I always thought it was in Anaheim, but apparently it was somewhere else. And I met people like Glenn Ofield. Do you remember him? The
Yeah.
one who had his collection stolen and
Hmm.
held for ransom. So I met him, and he was lovely. He was such a nice man. And I met Joe Blickman. That was the first show he'd ever done by
Oh,
odd
how
coincidence.
cool.
And he, of course, was, the gentleman, lovely person that he is.
Hmm.
And, but I didn't have any money, Joey. So, I mean, I think I bought I think Glenn Ofield sold me a twist and turn wearing lemon cake for $30. And that was a really good, he was like giving it to me. He was just being a
Yeah.
really nice guy.
Yeah.
And so, it was hard to collect because I didn't have any money. So, but I'm around,
Yeah.
and then I started doing Camden Market in about 1991 or something with a group of friends. It was literally, I'd get on the bus with a trash bag full of old clothes and a blanket, and I'd throw the blanket on the ground and throw the clothes onto it, and I had to pay like 10 quid, but I'd make 100 quid, and
Yeah.
with the other work I was doing, I was a cloak check girl, and I was doing some styling, and sometimes I did some freelance work for a company called Vivid Imaginations, who were a toy company that did a version of Cindy. And sometimes I'd do some freelance work for Hasbro. So, I had trickles of money coming in.
Yeah.
And but I did this market stall, and I was selling a quick curl Barbie, and this German woman bought it, and she said her name was Eva, and she said, "Do you know in Germany we have like specialist Barbie shows, and if you come, you can stay with me. You can come to Germany, and we'll do this show at Koblenz." And I was like, "Yeah." So a few weeks later, I got on a plane, like a suitcase full of stuff, and I know how I got a load of stuff. Like, because I was a freak, right? Because I'm a male collector.
Yeah.
So they did an article about me, and it was syndicated. It was in the News of the World, and it was a photograph of me with a load of Barbies behind me, and I had like a little moustache that I'd penciled in like John Waters. So I looked like a used car salesman. And it was this article about, oh, can you believe it? A man collects dolls. You know how dumb all that
Yes.
stuff was.
Yes.
And but the newspaper got a load of letters from these people saying, I've got old Barbies and I want to sell them. So I got a lot of stuff that was really great for
Wow,
very
that's
little
so
money.
cool.
I was really lucky. I've always been
Yeah.
really lucky with,
Yeah.
especially with dolls. So I went to Koblenz and met Eva, and I couldn't believe it. It was a whole show of like all these stalls just selling Barbie, and that was the time when nobody really knew that much. So, for example, it would be like, oh, why does that bend leg doll have that face with no eyelashes, but it doesn't twist at the waist? And those were the German bend legs, right?
Yeah.
And there were loads of them.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
me and me and Eva figured out that this was an actual thing, that it wasn't swapped heads, and
Yeah.
so, and then there would just be tables piled with NRFB stuff that had come from some toy store in Sweden or somewhere, and it was sorry, I just sold a doll. Oh, you're bringing me luck.
Yay!
uh, uh,
Visit Julian's eBay store.
so I couldn't believe it, Joe. It was just great. And then I met all the characters,
Yeah.
um, and I was really young. I was like, I guess I was the youngest person, and I looked younger than I was, and I was this little blonde, and what Americans would call a twink,
Yeah. And
and
so
everybody was
handsome.
really nice to me, and
Mhm.
it was great.
Mhm.
And that's when I had a really fantastic stroke of luck because I had a black Francie that I picked up for next to nothing. And this woman, I can't remember what her name was, the woman that did Barbie in Japan, that did the book with Barry Sturgill.
Oh yeah, yeah.
I traded this black Francie with her for a side part head. Yeah? You know those
Wow.
mint side part
Yeah.
heads with
Yeah.
the elastic holding them and stuff?
Yeah.
And a woman called Sachiko, this really elegant, really posh, very beautiful Japanese woman came over to me and she said, deal with her, you deal with me. And she opened this little case and it was just full of these side part heads and what we now know as Japanese exclusives and
Yeah.
uh, those Japanese Francies and the skippers,
Yeah.
all of that stuff. And we came to an arrangement. So between 1992, right up until the beginning of this century, I dealt with her, and I was kind of the go-between with the American dealers. And although she
Wow.
did a lot of business herself, but
Yeah.
that was the making of me as a dealer during that period because of that immense stroke of luck.
Yeah, that's amazing.
I
That's
know I
so
was so
amazing.
lucky. Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, it can build so fast too because, you have a little money, you invest in the right things, doll wise, and then you're selling that or trading up and you're getting things and eventually you're building,
That's
build.
exactly it.
Yeah. Yeah. So what's the illustrious musical career?
Oh, that's another thing that I played around with in the early 90s was I wanted to be a pop star.
I could see that. I could very much see that.
I had a manager and everything. And
Wow.
I did this well I'd done a group in the punk days and we were called the Spahn Ranch Spanglers. Spahn Ranch was where Charles Manson hung out.
Mhm.
So I had this my punk jacket had Charlie Manson written on the back in studs, and we had this band called the Spahn Ranch Spanglers. That was when I was about 16, but by this time I'm like in my late 20s, and that whole kind of Britpop thing's happening. So yeah, I do bands. I'm singing and but mainly playing guitar in bands, and that was a lot of fun, and that was
Yeah.
happening at the same time as the Barbie thing was. So it was just a really exciting period.
That's so cool. I love that.
So I would go to Germany about 3 or 4 times a year. I'd go to Paris about 3 times a year. Then I started going to Japan, of course, America. I
Yeah.
used to go to the Barbara Peterson. I moved to Los Angeles in 1997, and then I would do the Barbara Peterson show. Do you remember Barbara Peterson?
I actually don't. Uh-uh.
She was a really, really lovely, very suave, very well presented, and very kind woman who did a really great show at Disneyland
Yeah.
in LA. And so, yeah, where else did I go? All over Italy, uh, but mainly Germany and America were the big ones.
Yeah.
And it was a whole culture because it's pre-internet and but that period of Barbie is like a license to print money. I mean, people are just making money hand over fist. I mean, I remember selling a mint American girl, high color with a wrist tag for £2,500
Yeah.
in 1995. I mean, you wouldn't get anything like that. Prices were
Wow.
really high.
Yeah.
There was a real boom, you know?
Yeah. Well, yeah, there was a boom in collectors. I mean, that's why we have all of this 90s Barbie. I hate to call it 90s Barbie trash, but you know, the because the collectability was becoming so mainstream, you know, Mattel was putting out all these collectible Barbies and really just hammering, you know, the collectability of it and everything. And so, yeah, during that period, things were expensive, and some things were more expensive than they are today, you know? I mean, it
Yes.
was definitely, Barbie was on a roll at that point in history.
Totally, absolutely. And Mattel, for some reason, didn't capitalize on it well, as you say. The quality of their product dropped, and they became strangely litigious with people. You
Mhm.
know, I heard a story about some teenage girl in Ireland who they threatened to take to court just for customizing dolls. I mean,
Yeah,
I
yeah,
don't know what was going on because they've been such a fantastically exciting company, you know,
yeah.
especially in the late 60s when they're doing Kiddles and Upsy
Right,
Downers.
right.
And they're obviously all on hallucinogens,
I mean,
right?
the upsy downsies, I mean, come on. That was an acid trip all in itself.
And they're genius, right? They're so
Yeah,
great.
yeah,
And so the most exciting toy company in the world became this colossal corporate bore.
yeah, yeah. And they were making too much of it. I mean, they were, you know, collectible Barbie. Bob Mackie had started making his own Barbie, and they weren't. I mean, to them, like a small number. You know, it's like 100,000. You know, or whatever. You know, and it's like,
Yeah.
well, that's not it now because it was so flooded and because they made so many. You know, I have women coming to me saying they have this amazing Barbie collection, and they do. You know, it's 90s collectible dolls, but what their receipts, you know, say that they paid back in the day for installments of, you know, 35.99. The doll was, you know, 100 and whatever dollars, and I'm like, well, I'm sorry to say they're 9.99 on eBay plus shipping, right? You know, it
Yeah.
just they made too many. Had they had smaller numbers and actually made them exclusive, then they might have shown better, you know, in value because there's less of them. But they just swamped the market with collectible Barbie.
They were very cynical towards us, weren't they?
Yeah, yeah,
Let me tell you about Billy Boy and Midvani show
yeah,
first.
yeah, yeah,
So around 80, 89, there I used to love posh fashion magazines.
yeah,
I couldn't afford them, so I used to shoplift them, but they were really easy to shoplift. Who would think that this guy was actually stealing a copy of Italian Vogue? So I wouldn't even hide them. I'd just go into the shop and walk out with them. And because I wasn't going to pay 10 quid for a copy of Italian Vogue, but
right.
I had this, so I had this copy of Vogue, and in the back there was an ad for a doll. I was like, "What the hell is this?" And there was this. I didn't know it was Rene Grau, but my boyfriend did. My Persian boyfriend. He said, "Oh my God, that's a Rene Grau illustration," and it was for Midvani, but there was no photo. There was just an address and a phone number because that was how we contacted each other then.
Yeah.
So there was a ruse that we used to use in the 80s to get something, to get into something. We would all lie and say we were journalists. So, so I think I wrote and said, I'm living in London and I'm really intrigued by this. And I got this letter back with an invitation to this opening night unveiling of this doll in this beautiful shop called Liberties, which is you call it craftsman, we call it Art Nouveau. That beautiful turn of the century style. It's a gorgeous shop, and the party was in the jewelry department. So I turned up, and there was this beautiful, the word vitrine is really pretentious, but it was, like a glass fronted, really nice cabinet. And the dolls, I've never seen images that presented, that showed how beautiful those dolls really were. I mean,
Yeah.
the colors, the oranges and the turquoise and the shocking pink and the lime and oh God, the
Luxurious.
colors.
Yeah.
And they were just exquisite. And I met Billy Boy, and he was really big because he had these Vivienne Westwood platforms on with a wooden sole, and he had striped Mary Quant striped stockings, and he had this fur thing that was kind of like Francis the Wild Bunch
Yeah.
in shocking pink and orange. And then he had bright yellow hair, and he had some makeup on, and he had his glasses, and he looked straight out of the Warhol factory.
Wow.
And he was so friendly and down to earth, drinking, like smoking, and just having a laugh. And he was the least pretentious person.
Wow.
He gets a lot of bad press, but he was lovely. And those Midvani dolls, that day, that was another real turning point in my life, because I thought, he's done this independently. I mean, okay, he had a lot of money, but he did it. And
Yeah.
there's a sense in which he did what he did better than anybody that's ever attempted to do that kind of really chic
Yeah.
couture, because he used old couture techniques. He had the work people from Paris who would use horsehair to stiffen skirts, and it was all exquisite and properly
Yeah.
done, and it was so amazing.
That's
That
amazing.
was a really amazing evening. But we didn't carry cameras.
Yeah.
There's no record of it. I've never
Yeah.
seen any pictures of it anywhere.
Yeah.
So you said then Christopher Ass. So in '97, I moved to LA, and I've got this friend called Cassie Cooper, and she says to me, oh, and she was living in this apartment building, and my ex was living in this apartment building, and they both said, oh, there's this guy who's living here. He's a Barbie collector. You should make friends with him. So I met him, and we just got on like a house on fire.
Yeah.
And he was working on a book, that book called, I think it's called The Face of the American Dream. So I became his assistant. So I would drive him around. So that was a really great period, because he would take me to all these collectors' houses in Beverly Hills, and there was a museum in Anaheim that had a massive Barbie collection, and we would just hang out. So that was a lot of fun, and being
Yeah.
friends with him. He's kind of a bit of maybe a bit forgotten, but I thought that was a great book, and it was really good fun working with him.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah, after I left LA, I lived in South Africa for a while, and
I actually didn't know that about you.
yeah,
Yeah.
and that was an amazing period. I lived in a neighborhood called Sandton, and it was posh because nobody wanted to go there, and the rand, the currency, you got a lot of rand for your pound, and so I had a kind of a decadent experience living there. But I did go to a doll show in Johannesburg,
Oh, wow.
and it was super cheap. Like everything was like so cheap. I did get a great. Do you know the doll Bettina by Sabino? That's a bit like a cross between a Sasha doll and a mod doll.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, I got an NRFB one of those. I think she cost me like the equivalent of £3, and
Wow.
yeah, and that was an experience, like living there for a while, and then I came back to London and sort of fell to earth and had to get a job. So I worked in a props house, which was a place that hired out paintings and objects for films and television. But it was kind of, have you ever read a book called The Confederacy of Dunces.
Mm-mm.
There's a character in it called Ignatius J. Riley. John Waters wanted to film it, and he wanted Divine to play Ignatius. He thought only Divine could play Ignatius, but Divine died just after they made Hairspray, so John Waters never made it. But Ignatius is this really fat, really lazy, but really self-justifiable, kind of monstrous but hilarious character. But he gets a job, and he really doesn't want this job. But it's like an anti-job,
Yeah.
a job where you don't really have to do anything. And that's what my job at the Props House was. I was paid very little, but I was paid to do absolutely nothing. So that's when. But it was great because it was a props house, so I could bring things home, like, really posh candelabras, or it's really non-PC, but whatever, tiger skin rugs with the tiger's head, and it was great for dressing my flat.
Yeah.
So if I had guys coming around, my flat always looked really amazing. So it was great being a bachelor at that time.
Right.
And that's where I met Liz Lee, that I ended up doing Lalka with, because she was working in an Arab school nearby, and that was a kind of a bit of an anti-job as well. And she would pop by, and we kind of vaguely knew each other, but we became really close friends. And then we started doing a fanzine together. So she would write. She was a really good writer and poet, and I would draw and write stuff too. And we would just make 2 copies of this fanzine that we called the Penny Dreadful. What the Penny Dreadful had originally been was, it had been a kind of a publication from the late 1800s about really gruesome executions. Mm-hmm. And we thought that this was appropriate to the subject matter of the fanzine, which is because the fanzine was all about doll collectors.
Yeah.
Because they were so fascinating to us, and they had catchphrases. You know how they do.
Yeah.
And they were
have your
great
own lingo. I mean, doll collectors have their own lingo in a certain sense,
So we did that, and we did a lot of art shows together as well, and we created a lot of work. And then one day, we said, we should have a free gift that comes on the cover of the Penny Dreadful, which is completely ridiculous because there were only ever 2 copies of it. So the whole thing was just this crazy joke. But we turned on the computer, and this is really true. I haven't embroidered this story at all. This is really true. We turned on the computer, one of those ancient old things that took about an hour to warm up, and we typed in Doll Factory, China, and I literally just pointed a pencil at the screen, because how was I going to know which one was any different from any other?
Yeah.
And Liz, I remember to this day, she was wearing this black Vivienne Westwood suit. She looked kind of really smart and quite corporate that day. And she got her phone and she just rang the travel agents and booked 2 tickets, 2 flights to Hong Kong. So we did it. We just flew to Hong Kong. Wow. And we got a bus from outside the YMCA, and we went way into the center of China. It's like hours and hours and hours and hours. And then we met this couple, and it was a brother and sister, and they'd taken over this company, and it was really hard to explain to them what we wanted. We had to build Lily with us, and we had one of those Spanish lilies, and we had some Hong Kong lilies, and we were going to leave them but we knew nothing about anything. We didn't know that you could laser print things perfectly.
Yeah.
But we thought, this is going to look like Lily. But then when we gave them the Lily, they were like this. They were like, oh, they were treating it like, and I'd paid £1,000 for that thing. Yeah. So I wasn't going to leave it there. So we left them the Spanish doll, the Spanish Greta. And but the head that came out didn't look like anything like Lily anyway. It became a thing on its own. but it was very exciting because it's complete unknown territory to both of us. We hadn't known anybody else that had ever done anything like that. And Liz went off to Guatemala. I went off to Brazil. And it was when you still had those kind of internet cafes. So each evening we'd kind of communicate at these internet cafes, and she would be sending me photographs that the Chinese had sent her of whatever they'd done. And
oh, that's
of
so
course,
exciting.
it was all wrong. Everything was wrong.
Right.
But we'd put the wheels in motion, and we'd started something, and it was like a baby. Once you've picked it up, you can't put it down, and it grew from there. And the first dolls.
Were those the ones that you had for sale through Marl and B, the first ones? Because the first ones I remember ever seeing were the penny. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's what I remembered first, was the penny dolls that were sold through Marl and B. And then I remember then after that run of penny dolls, then I remember Lalka.
So what happened was we went to, it was a mess, Joey. It was a mess.
Yeah.
The bodies were sticky. I had no intention of painting dolls. I never wanted to paint the faces of dolls.
Wow.
But I didn't really like the way that they'd done the blush. So I thought, we'd spent a lot of money, and I thought it can't be that difficult to learn to use an airbrush. So we started taking them apart. But initially they were a mess. I mean, I can remember we were going to France, and I was on the phone to Liz, and they were all sticky, and I was in my flat, and I literally threw myself on the floor and had a fit, because I was like, oh my God, we can never sell these. They're garbage. Oh, what have we done? Oh.
Yeah.
And we were really worried that we were going to get sued, and people were saying, "Oh, you're going to go to prison for doing this." And
Still living on the edge, even with dolls.
we got really, no, Joey, we got really paranoid.
Yeah.
We really got really paranoid about it. But we went to Paris with them, and it kind of spoiled things in a lot of ways. We could never enjoy the doll shows anymore. The dynamic between how people had been with us before and after changed a lot.
Yeah.
But Marl bought all of them. She bought the whole table. She came over, she saw one, she said, "Yeah, I'll have all of them."
Wow.
You know how she
Wow.
is. Yeah, she bought a lot. So that was like, fuck.
Yeah.
And then Joe, because I'd been friends with Joe for a long time. I'd met him in '89. And when I lived in LA in the 90s, Joe and I hung out a lot. We were good mates.
Yeah.
And so Marl wanted them, and she had them in a pink box, and I designed it. It was like Lily smoking a fag.
I remember it, yeah.
Yeah. And then the other box was the plain black box with just the face. And Joe had those. And Joe's ones were called Lola, and Marl's ones were called Pretty Penny. But how can I tell this story? Honestly, honestly, Marl wanted us to only sell to her.
Yeah.
And we fell out.
Yeah.
We fell out over it, because it's like, Joe, you can only sell to me, okay?
Right.
Can you imagine?
Right.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Like, fuck off.
Yeah.
Although I like Marl. I like her a lot.
Yeah.
But, no. So there was a lot of squabbling. And it wasn't nice. It really wasn't nice.
Yeah.
Especially because even though it had been really, really fabulous of her to buy all the dolls in Paris, and that had given us a tremendous sense of achievement and confidence.
She was buying the dolls, she wasn't buying the rights to what you're producing
Well,
to
she was also
solely.
my friend. I've
Yeah,
known her
yeah,
since the early 90s. We're still friends, by the way.
yeah,
You know, like friends for we've fallen out, Joey, before, and
yeah,
we've made up now, you know?
yeah,
It happens, right?
yeah,
Especially with people with big personalities.
yeah.
So, and you don't get a bigger personality than Marl, do you?
No.
Yeah, she's
She
fabulous.
actually,
She's really,
one of
really
my,
fabulous. You know, I
oh,
love
she's
her.
fabulous. One of my first experiences with her, it was actually my only, I think, in-person experience with her. But I was 17, 18, living in rural North Carolina, and there was some doll show that was in a bigger city that we ended up driving to. And here is this blonde, wild bombshell of a woman with her, she had pink Barbie shirt on, and she had like three gay guys, cute gay guys, wearing Marlon B t-shirts that were running around her table, dealing with people, dealing with dolls. And as a young, gay male, and my first experience with anything like this, I was like, wow, who is this woman? Like she was like
The
basically
Wicked Witch of the
Hollywood at the
West with
doll
her flying
show.
monkeys, you know. She,
Yeah.
they are, she always had her flying monkeys, you know.
And she was as sweet as could be. She was so kind, to me. I think I purchased a Darcy from her, of
Yeah.
all weird things, but she was just amazing.
She's one of my role models, you know,
Yeah.
because when I met her, even when I met her in 92, I mean, she was about, I don't know, 60 then. So, you know, I just thought, my God, if somebody can go on at that age like a train, you
Yeah.
know, she just goes, she wasn't really 60 when I met her in
Yeah.
1992. But,
Yeah.
so, no, Marl and I love each other, you know, we do. In that, but like, you know, we've
There's
had our
history. There's
differences.
history. Yeah.
But I do love her, you know, I really do. She's great, and I love her kids too.
Mhm.
And Joe was really super supportive. Joe actually gave me the information, and it was the factory that made the gifts for the convention for Mattel,
Mhm.
and that's a big deal to give someone like me at that point that you know,
Yeah.
and us, Liz and I, that information. It was very generous, and that's when we had the head remade and the stands made, and we had the arms remade, and that's when she became Lalka.
Yeah.
And Joe really was. They were both. They were both. They were both. They were both really great.
Mhm.
Yeah.
He turned me down. When back in the day when I first did Mary Magpie, she was the 3D bombshell, and it was before I made her super vampy, and then she became Miss Mary. But in the early days when I was first doing her as Mary Magpie, I had reached out to Joe Blitman because I also, through all my youth collecting and stuff, he was always a very respectable, big name in the Barbie world. And he was always so kind whenever we had emailed each other or whatnot, whether I was buying something from him. And I had messaged him and said I really would love to do an exclusive doll for him. And like I said, this was way early on in my experience of doing things and having a doll. And he was really kind and really sweet, but his letter was just basically like, I've been down that road before and I just am not going to do it anymore. And or I'm sure it was like not with me, but but yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
Well, you know,
He didn't
his
like my doll, I
loss.
don't think.
Anyway, you can sell your own doll and you can make all the money rather than having to give half of it to a dealer.
Yeah, yeah. And I
I
mean, I
mean, you
learned
know,
all of that later, but I think because I have so much respect and so much love for the predecessors of the people that were kind of there in the throw and making it what it is today, like Joe Blitman, Marl, Paul David, all these people. I had
Paul
great
David I get because he created things. You know,
yeah,
I'm interested in, I don't want to sound pretentious, but I'm interested in doll artists, not people that sell dolls. You
right,
know,
right.
they may be friends, but, you know, um,
Yeah, so Joe was just high up on my list of people, and so I just felt compelled to write him and say, "Hey, can I do this exclusive with you?" But he wasn't into the idea.
I get your drift. I mean, he probably he didn't have a good experience with me and Liz and Marl. It was all a little bit, would make a great play.
It would. This is the things that, people want to know about. They want to know about, they don't want this pretty story, they want to know about what the real grit is.
You know, we can't go there. The
I know we
stuff is
can't. It's fine. I
outrageous.
know. But
Oh
let's
my
do it. No, I'm just
God.
kidding.
And Esther and I talk about, oh, we should write a Netflix series. And it's like, fuck, you know, it's
Yes.
like, God, the stuff that really went on.
Yes.
It
Or
would be
we
good though.
start what do you call it? A competition like RuPaul's Drag Race, but it's like, me, you, and a couple other people on the panel, and we have people come in who want to be doll artists and have them compete, and then we sit and we judge what they're what they're doing. That would be funny. Have like, we want a Lily inspired doll and la la la, and we give them all that, and we're like, go, you have 24 hours to make this happen and bring
Oh
it
my
back and see.
God.
Yeah.
Well, there are a lot of people doing it now, and I think that's great. It's kind of
Yeah.
punk, you know? It's
Yeah.
like, um, I love the fact that so many people are doing it.
I love and hate it, if I want to be honest, but it's fine.
There are certain people whose work I think is better than others, but I think
Yeah.
all round, I think, you know, my early work was atrocious, and it's just a matter of applying oneself long.
Yeah.
It takes time
Yeah.
to learn. It's a craft, and you know,
Yeah.
you and I have been doing it for a long time, and
Long time. Yeah.
we know it doesn't happen overnight,
No.
you know. But there's some interesting stuff going on. I like Ajiji. Um,
And I like Lucy, which I've talked about on my channel before
yeah,
too. I really
yeah.
like her as well as far as what's new going on. But what brought you from, doing Lalka, and then that became very successful, and you were doing, I remember a lot of like, I mean, they were all pretty much one of a kind in a sense, I mean, there would be kind of like copies of Lily fashions, but then they kind of just got their own fashions as well, kind of intermixed, inspired by. And then we break out of that mold, and then you introduce your original characters, the S girls, or Severine, I guess, first, right?
Yeah, there's a gap there. So Liz and I have sold out of Lalka by about 2011, and
Yeah.
then I I do up a couple of houses because there's a boom here, and I bought my apartment in London and I sold it, and I bought a house and did it up, and then I bought another one, and Liz was doing the same kind of thing. So I don't start doing dolls again until 2015.
Hmm.
And Liz and I are living on the coast, but near the sea, and we rent this big office space because nobody wants to rent it. So we just got this really big space to kind of work in. And then originally Severine was going to be a joint project between Liz and I, but it ended up that I did her on my own, and I was living in this country in this lovely cottage near the sea with roses around the door, and it was really, really, really idyllic. And then I had the most terrible love affair. Just, the one of those awful love affairs that just decimates your whole life. Yeah.
Whoa, bad romance.
Bad romance. And actually, that's the energy that went into Severin, because I just became so fractured
Yeah.
and miserable. And so originally she was just going to have one look, but in the end, like every single doll was like the mood of the day. And she got kind of. I was thinking a bit about Cindy Sherman, of course, and I was putting in. I started thinking, why isn't there more art content in this stuff? Why is it always so lowest common denominator? Why can't I start referencing, Jean-Luc Godard films or Fassbinder films? And
Yeah.
why can't I start referencing, because we're smart. Our stole people are smart. And, Billy Boy had said to me, he said, "You'll never sell that doll with her. You'll never sell that noir idea of a doll. Nobody will want it with its bags under its eyes. It's such a depressing concept. No doll collector will ever understand it." And I just thought, well, I think you're wrong, because I think, doll collectors are actually very sensitive and clever and very cultured, and I think you're wrong. And so there was a lot of content in Severin, a lot of movie references, a lot of literary references. I was feeling quite sorry for myself. So there's a lot of the writer Jean Rhys in Severin. Jean, she wrote this amazing book that I love called Good Morning Midnight, where she's living in Paris in the early 30s, and she's kind of a woman over a certain age, and her lover's dumped her, and she's drinking too heavily and
Right.
taking too many sleeping pills, and a lot of that kind of stuff went into Severin, and Severin really took off. I mean, she
Yeah.
sold out really fast, and
Yeah.
every doll had a little collage. I was cutting up these art books, and they were people that I was referencing, like Baby Jane Holzer or Edie Sedgwick, or all kinds of characters, but from the
Yeah.
Warhol scene and from French New Wave cinema, like the actress Anna Karina, and I that would go in with the doll, and I was just trying to bring a bit more depth
Yeah.
into it.
Yeah.
That was
And
the
I mean, and you
intention.
were, I mean, and then with Ernesto's photography, creating this world, I mean, the car crash, all of these things, these elements of what he put into the photography of these dolls
The
really,
car crash was from Jean-Luc Godard's movie Weekend,
and it was
where,
fabulous.
yeah, it's one of
Yeah.
my favorite pictures that Ernesto did. Yeah, I really love it. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
great. And that's when I become friends with Ernesto. And I can't remember how we became friends.
Huh.
I know he might remember. But we became really. I know you're really close friends too.
I think
Uh,
we're the two, yeah, it's Ernesto, you and I, we're the three amigos.
yes, yeah. And
Yeah.
I really adore Ernesto, and he
Yeah, me
really is
too.
a great. He gives me great advice, which in the past I didn't always listen to, but that was to my cost.
Yeah.
Like when I did the vinyl dolls, he said, "Whatever you do, don't make the hair wavy because you won't be able to make it look good in a photo." Oh no, I had to do wavy hair, and I hated those vinyl dolls.
You hated Savinal?
Yeah,
Oh, I loved Savinal. I loved Savinal because Sevinal felt like the baby sister of Severine, whereas or Severin. So I felt like Severin was more the art doll. She was more the middle-aged drinking, whatever that embodied. Whereas Sevinal felt more like, oh, she's the kicky kind of like uh now of that time era that they're set in. She's kind of the now girl, and so I really liked her. She was also, because of the fact that she was rooted in vinyl, she was a lot easier to play with, it feels when you're holding one of your dolls, besides the vinyl, your normal dolls, when I'm holding them, they feel fragile, not fragile, but like you want to take care with them. They're an art doll, so you're very careful with your movements or you're touching them or anything. And with the vinyl, I felt like I could take her and, go like this and have, not that I play with dolls like that, but you know what I mean? Like, I felt like she was easier to manipulate and have fun with, like, a Barbie doll or whatnot.
Well, then you should have all the Savinals and you should do something with them. We should come to some kind of arrangement
I
and you
have
could
some
take
heads.
over the project.
Yeah, I
Because I've got a whole
remember.
fucking attic full of them.
Yeah, I have heads because that the horrible factories in China that, I mean that's another thing that's so terrible about this business is that here we are and we're doing this on our own. We're funding it on our own. We're, doing all of this and it's no help at all to us when the factories, even the factories that we're working with, are also selling, your products sometimes before you even have it in your hands on eBay. And it's like, yeah,
I know. I mean, I wasn't really bothered, but it is aggravating. Yeah.
yeah.
But
I
I
was
did like
bothered.
Solange. I liked Solange, which was Liz's idea. It was
Yeah.
Liz's idea to do Solange. And she's because Savinal is Caprice.
Hmm.
So Solange was Suzette.
Hmm.
You know that though, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I got boxes of them. We should come to an arrangement.
I know we should. I'm in for it.
Why
I
not?
mean,
They're
why
just gonna
not? Yeah. Yeah. I'm
waste not,
very,
want not.
yeah, I'm very interested. Then after that, the S girls appear.
Oh yeah. So
Mhm.
I think I was spreading myself quite thin. I should have just done one doll, but because I had to have that mold made anyway, and you know how expensive molds are,
Yeah.
and I thought, well, have them chuck in another couple of heads
Mhm.
because originally it was just going to be Sylvain,
Yeah.
and Sylvain. Uh, I told you that Liz and I rented that office space,
Mhm.
and Ernesto and I love our chats. So one afternoon we were chatting on the phone, and I said, I want to do a Jolie Lay doll, an ugly, beautiful doll that's mannish, and I want it to be ambiguous. I don't want to say that she's a trans because
Right.
I think there's much more dignity in subtlety and privacy. But I've got a lot of trans friends,
Yeah.
and I thought, I thought, I think this is a good idea. And I was chatting with Vanessa. He thought it was a good idea, and I said, well, what head sculpt do you think would be good? And I was like, Lady Penelope would be good, and we both like, that whole Jerry Anderson thing, the high
Yeah.
cheekbones. And
Yeah.
then there's a doll called Mitzi,
Yes.
uh, the friend of Cindy, which is a
Yes.
really weird doll.
Very
And
strange.
then, sorry, Joey.
Oh, I said yes, she's very strange.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And very rare.
Mm.
And but then Ernesto said Nancy by Bella, and I was like, what's that? What's that? And he's like, he sent me a picture, and I was like, oh my god, that's the one.
Yeah.
And he said it's really rare, and it was so synchronicitous and weird because I was talking to him at about 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and then I went online and I was, trying to find one. He said, does anyone have one?
Yeah.
And I think it was Liz that found this dealer. I think it was Kathy Moreau in Paris. She had one. She had a blonde one for €300, and I just bought it. And
Yeah.
I could have spent the next 2 years trying to find a Nancy because they're so rare.
Right.
So that was all meant to be.
Yeah.
And then initially, I sent the factory that head and crossed it with Lily so that it would be made in that way with the screw in pate.
Yeah.
But I didn't like it. And then, so I crossed it with Schwabinchen and gave the Irish more of a kind of a curve. And then the nose was Build Lily's and the construction was Lily's. But because the nose was so far from that huge mouth, she kind of looked like Homer Simpson. And I really liked it. And then Esther was like, do you think you should move the nose a little bit closer to the mouth? And I said, no, I like this.
Yeah.
And so anyway, the mold cost. So I thought, well, chuck in another couple of heads so you get 3 dolls and, maybe the other 2 will sell too.
Yeah.
But I overestimated my own stamina, and I couldn't concentrate on doing that much stuff at the same time. I'm a person that I lose concentration on something if I'm not that interested in it very fast.
Yes.
And I can't apply myself. So out of those 3 dolls, the only one that I really liked was Sylvain. And she was like my baby, and I really love her. She's the doll I love the most that I made. I think she's my favorite.
Yeah.
And and people really liked her, and I was surprised that she was popular because I thought, that's not going to sell because she's so plain and she's so
fabulous. I mean, to me, she has the same kind of appeal that Blythe had to me because, we grew up seeing Barbie, and so Barbie was like kind of like our image of what a teenage fashion doll is, and then when I discovered Blythe, which is very not Barbie, I mean, she's very, very different. And but there was something about the aesthetic that just really spoke to me. And I found myself really magically like attracted to Blythe. And I feel like Sylvain had that same kind of power where it's like, oh, she's not, our normal teenage fashion model. She's not just like another fashion doll. She's something completely different and almost alien. And that really spoke to me because it made her unique. She stood out from the crowd, but yet she held this dignity and this like fashion sense, and you could have almost more fun playing with her than Barbie because you can imagine her in these trashy scenarios, or you know what I mean, like she's doesn't want to be seen today. She's wrapping her, she has her scarf on and her sunglasses and her morning paper and coffee, but she almost felt like a celebrity, I guess, because she's a character. She wasn't a just a fashion doll.
That is a huge compliment. I'm really honored that you've just said those beautiful things to me. Thank you. That was so lovely of you. I really, really appreciate that.
Well, you
Look,
capture something in everything that you do. I mean, everything you do is so genius. I mean, Severine is probably, as much as I love Sylvain, Severine is probably my favorite, because she was so impactful, and of course, you know, sistered with Ernesto's photography. When I was watching Severin come out and seeing that happen, I was like, I was eating it in. I was just eating it in because it was so perfectly beautiful. I knew exactly what the references were. I knew exactly what you were pulling for her, what her character was, and nothing like that had been done before. Nothing. And you're taking this part of history, human history that was real and happened, but was kind of under the table stuff that's happening. You know, like when you get those queer books and stuff from the 70s. You know, that wasn't something that you could walk into a bookstore and buy. You had to go in somewhere special to get those, you know, whatever. And that's what your dolls feel like to me. They feel like something that would have a cult following. They feel like John Waters. They feel like, you know, all of that, Andy Warhol. You bring that same kind of energy and magic with them that nobody can do. Like, people could try, but no one can do it like you. And part of that is because of your life experience that you've had, you know, and
Oh,
because you're just a genius and you're talented.
oh, well, thank you. That's so lovely of you. Thank you so much. I mean, really, they're just accidents.
Well, they're
I
happy
mean,
accidents.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
but that's so lovely of you. Thank you so much. Did you like the stuff I did with Thanos, that Ernesto and I did with Thanos?
I don't know what you did with Thanos.
Thanos did the wigs,
Yeah.
and we did a project called Suburban Relapse, and it was Sylvain having a
Yeah.
nervous breakdown.
Yes, yes. I loved that. I loved that. I knew that the wigs were used. I didn't know that you were directly also working with Thanos. So that's
Oh
why I
yeah,
got
yeah.
confused for a moment.
He
Yeah,
he
that
he
was
he
incredible.
art directed that.
Yeah.
I think
Absolutely.
he's really talented.
Oh, super
Um,
genius. Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
I wanted to mention him because I really like him, and I because I think his work is really great, and
Yeah.
I think he shares our sensibilities. You know,
Mhm. Mhm.
he's just he's brave, isn't he? He's
Yeah.
good.
Yeah, he's very good.
I tell you, who's the absolute sweetheart is David Rose.
Hmm. I've never
He
met
is
David. We've talked a little online, but I've never met him.
Oh, he is the
Yeah.
most sweet, generous. What a gentleman. He's such a lovely person. I
Yeah.
mean, this latest project, I mean, he couldn't have been kinder to me. And you know, he's doing his own doll.
Yeah. Stella Rose? No.
Grace, is it called
Grace,
Grace?
yeah. Why did I say Stella Rose? Where did that come from?
I don't
Grace,
know, but
yeah.
it's a good name for a doll.
Yeah, Stella Rose.
Yeah, Stella
You can
Rose
have
is
it.
she's this kind of like gothic, uh, kind of schlocky horror movie character from the late
Yes.
60s, isn't she?
Yes, I love
You
that.
know, like she's a bit kind of night gallery.
Yeah. Yeah.
I like that.
I
I like
love
the name
that.
Stella a
Yeah.
lot.
Yeah. And you've used it. Yeah, I love that.
Well, I moved to London with a guy called Stella. I mean, you know, we used, I don't know, did you used to give yourselves girl names there?
Uh, no, but that sounds like a fun thing.
Wasn't it a thing where you'd like,
Oh, like your friends or something? Like give them
yeah, like your
a
gay male friends had female names.
yes, yeah, yeah.
So, yeah, my friend's name was Stephen, but we used to call him Stella.
Stella.
And
I love that.
yeah,
Yeah. Well, I was
yeah.
Josephine, so you know.
Oh, and mine was Mr. Sard.
Ooh, I like that. That's so good.
So, when did you do drag? I've never seen pictures of you in drag.
So I did I only made two uh stage appearances in drag.
Yeah.
And it's all it all doesn't it's in the ether. There was no, we didn't have the like what we have now where people are carrying around cell phones and
Yeah.
photographing when they pick their nose, they're photographing. And back in the day, even some of the greatest things that I did or events, I don't have any
Yeah.
photos of,
Yeah.
unfortunately. But I think I was about 13 or 14, and it's when I was going to this underage nightclub. It was an underage gay nightclub. They're actually doing a documentary about it right now because there was nothing like it, and it was the only thing in America like that sort of thing where it was all of the street kids that had nowhere to go, they would go to the city nightclub and they would be sleeping under pool tables and stuff, having a safe place to crash. And so I was, a lot of the club kid kind of things were going on, and I was part of that. And I they would put on shows at the club, and so I got kind of pulled into doing the shows. Originally, I was just helping behind the scenes because I that's what I liked to do. I liked to help, and then I got kind of pulled on to like, oh well, we need another backup singer, so you're gonna have to be in drag. And I was like, okay. And I remember practicing in my grandmother's house, practicing wearing high heels and walking, back and forth in them so I could be okay on stage in these stiletto high heels. And the first time that I did this on stage, it was just one of those. What's that music video where all the girls are in the black dresses with the sunglasses?
Oh, Addicted to Love.
Addicted to Love. It
Yeah.
was it was that, and I was one of the backup girls. So
Bad.
I was
So
just dressed.
black.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, yes. And so that was my first experience, and then my second one was another backup for an Aretha Franklin song that an actual female that was doing drag was performing, and then I was one of the backup people for that. But that was my only experience with drag besides childhood, wearing my mom's, bikini tops and putting pajamas on my head and making hair and, stuff like that.
Well, you see, I never really thought of it as drag. I just used to like dressing up, and I had this real thing about because I would pass, when I was in my, mid from my mid-teens to my mid-20s. I mean, I didn't sweat. I had very little beard growth, and I had really clear skin,
Yeah.
and I would pass, and I wasn't actually it wasn't so much that I wanted to be a woman. Um, I was just intrigued by. I loved women's. So I don't really think like that,
Yeah.
but I loved the clothes.
Yeah.
And I was also intrigued sometimes by doing some really unattractive looks. But I would do it in the day, and I would get the
Yeah.
bus and get like a kick out of not being read.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that was the whole Marnie thing.
Yeah.
And then later, when, after 40, when I became a lot more masculine physically, and took steroids and went to the gym, and then I would experiment with kind of male disguises, and
Yeah.
I like the idea of gender swapping. I've always thought that that was a really sophisticated idea.
Yeah.
I've just always thought that, why restrict yourself in that way? But as you get older, I mean, for me, if I was to, because sometimes I think, oh, I really want to do a kind of Liz Taylor in the driver's seat. Have you seen the driver's seat?
No, I love
Oh,
Liz, but yeah.
Liz has like got this really teased up hair, and she's really crazed, and she's got these glasses, and she's got this hideous outfit, and she's really demented. She's looking for a lover, but she wants him to murder her.
Oh my God.
Berserk. It's really, really great. It's got Andy
Wow.
Warhol in it as well. But she wears, but I've thought, I'd really love to be like Liz Taylor now, now that I'm 62, and grow out my hair and wear like a kind of
Caftans
a
with big
moo
jewelry. Yes.
really loose fitting thing, and
A big
just
statement piece, maybe a Billy Boy necklace, it's like
oh, Ernesto sent me a Billy Boy piece of jewelry. I think it's yeah. I mean, didn't he do a lot of stuff
he
and
did
the
a
images
lot
of
of
all that were
jewelry.
lost,
Yeah.
aren't they?
Yeah.
But he did clothes as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, I think once you're older, it's much harder to because I'd have to shave, and I don't know
Yeah.
what's underneath this.
I know, I don't either. It's been a long time.
It's
The last
hiding
time
a.
I did it, I was like, never again. I shaved and I saw my face and I was like, oh, I used to, when I was a teenager, I had such a great chiseled, jawline and all these things. And then I
Yeah.
like shaved, like probably about 5 years ago was the last time I did it. And I shaved everything off, maybe during COVID. And I remember just looking at my face in the mirror and being like, yeah, we're not going to do that again. I like you better with facial hair.
Yeah, if I did it again, I'd had electrolysis, and then I'd turn myself into Liz Taylor.
Yes.
I mean, I don't know. I just love that kind of. Why restrict yourself?
Exactly. Exactly. There's no reason
Yeah,
for it.
and I suppose a lot of that goes into my work because I really love women
Mhm.
and feminine things.
Well,
Not
I
that I
think that's
see them as
yeah.
sorry.
Well, I think that's why fashion dolls are so why there's so many gay men that collect fashion dolls and that whatnot. Because for me, I have always appreciated women. Their bodies are beautiful. I love the clothing that they wear, the style, like the whole, all of that. I always really like admired and looked up to, and it never, to me, I never read things that were sexy as trashy. To me, it was strength, right? Because this woman could walk into a room and turn everybody's heads. That's power. That's like the ultimate power. And so I think that fashion dolls are kind of like, I can't be that. I mean, I could, but really, I don't feel like I can. And also, I do resonate in my body. I like being a male, but that the fashion doll gives me kind of that fantasy of that life, if that makes sense.
Oh,
And I think that's
totally,
why, yeah,
totally. And I
yeah,
really noticed that kind of. What I love about your work is that kind of Russ Meyer thing with the really big tits. I really love that because I love those. Am I right? I mean, is Russ
yeah.
Meyer is he a reference to you? He is, isn't
No,
he?
but it's the same kind of. I feel like I really resonated with those over the top pinup sketches.
Yeah.
Because they made women could look like that, but they kind of added a little extra in the artistry of drawing their breasts and their rib cages and their tiny little waists and everything. And I think that old artwork of the pinup woman, and then of course Jessica Rabbit, that came on the scene when I was young, about 11, I think.
Well,
Yeah, Roger
remind me
Rabbit
how
came
old
out.
you are. How old are you?
I was born in 78. I'm 47.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah. But I think that, that between the pinup sketches and Jessica Rabbit and stuff, I was like, well, why hasn't anybody amped Barbie up times 1,000 and give her this like, and so
Va
I
va
thought
va
that's
boom. Yeah.
where I want Mary to go. I had
I
done the
love that.
bombshell.
I love that.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, I'd done the bombshell and she had more a Barbie size body, which was great for dressing because people already own clothing that's that size and stuff. And so it was taking a big risk because she has a whole different shape. And so that's very risky because I'm not a clothing factory, and since I'm also not turning out the clothing for her. I was worried how it was going to be received, but that's why I included patterns with the original dolls. Not that everybody sews, but everybody knows somebody who sews within the doll community and can hand
Yeah,
over the pattern and be like, "Here, sew for this doll." But yeah, I even though the struggle of her shape being different, I'm sure affected sales and whatnot. I really wanted to have something out there that really embodied what those sketches embodied for me growing up.
totally. Yeah.
Yeah.
I used to love those Varga
Yes.
girls when I
Yes.
first moved to London. That Persian boyfriend, he had a big collection of Varga illustrations from Playboy, and
And do you
of course,
remember Olivia? The artist Olivia? She did a lot of uh Betty Page, and then kind of like fantasy things where she would have this nude woman on a horse, but the woman was a zebra, and she would have this big zebra mohawk, and anyways, she was amazing, and she was basically kind of the 80s an 80s pinup artist, I guess, and
oh,
very
send
popular.
me images because
Yeah,
I really want to see. Yeah,
yeah, it's
I'll
beautiful
research
stuff.
her
Yeah, and so
because
that's the
I
kind of
love
stuff
all
that
that.
inspired me. Yeah.
I mean, that's what we're doing in a sense, isn't it, Joe? We're doing these kind of 3D pin-up
Yeah.
things, and I always wanted to be a pin-up.
Yes. Well, I mean, you kind of are. I mean, you are. I mean, I always think of you as kind of this sex icon in the doll scene. I mean, and then getting to see some of these past photos that you share once in a while, like a naughty one recently with you laying on your stomach naked, and I was it was so adorable. I was like, he was beautiful at every single age.
But I wasn't, you see. I was a fat kid, and then I had all this kind of thank you. I love what that was so lovely what you just said. But I had a lot of body issues, and what I did was when I moved to London and I needed money, I started doing nude modeling because not not sort of softcore porn modeling. I did do
Right.
that, but I did that later.
Yeah.
But what I did was I just did art school modeling because if you got to strip off in front of a class of people, and you got to lose your inhibitions. And I always hated being inhibited in any kind of way. And I've always thought that for myself, I can only speak for myself, but any kind of inhibition that I have, if I face it, I I dissolve it.
Yeah.
It's gone, and that makes me feel better about my own humanity. And
Yeah.
when I did that thing where I was doing later, when I was like posing for those photos, I found that really, really empowering. And it was. You mentioned it, and you said this to me when we were speaking a couple like a week ago or something. You said that I was like this. You saw the pin-up kind
Yeah.
of idea there, and I was really jealous of my female friends because they could do that kind of work, and or they could do stripping, and it was a different vibe. It wasn't quite as sleazy for girls to do it,
Yeah.
because for us it was kind of a lot more risky, wasn't it,
It
with dirty
was.
old
It was a
men.
lot sleazier. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
wanting to slip you a roofie or
Yeah.
some a GHB in your drink or something.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
but
think
I
people
love.
don't talk about that a lot too, about I know that women through history have dealt with a lot when it comes to being sexualized and how men feel like their property or whatnot. But what isn't discussed a lot is growing up and being a gay youth, and you're surrounded by a sea of men, and and they treat you differently because you are another man. So it's a whole different dynamic. You're not being treated like a woman. You're being treated like, a little twink slut or a man, or whatever, and it's a whole different a whole different ball game. I mean, I remember I was working for Cascade Aid's project, volunteering. I was about 16 years old, and
What's Cascade's product?
it's a project basically for AIDS,
Yeah, oh, right.
and so we were promoting safe sex, and I was 16, and they took me to the bathhouses. And I'd be standing behind a table with a towel around myself, and handing men out condoms and whatever. But men felt like, they could come up and touch me or grab me or try to, whatever. And so it was a whole different it's a whole different thing, and I don't think that that gets explored a lot about what gay men also have to go through,
Oh,
depending. Yeah,
Joey, it's a real hot topic in my mind too. You
yeah,
know, being female, you are under the scrutiny of the male gaze. You are always on show. Women are always on show. And, they're always being observed. And it's exactly the same for gay men. I think it's even more
yeah,
intense
yeah,
because the body fascism is so, incredibly difficult to cope with. I mean, and when I was young, I felt that I was treated very like a stupid teenage girl,
yeah,
and
yeah,
I would I would end up in some horrible situations
yeah,
with I was raped.
yeah,
I was
yeah,
drugged and raped, and
yeah.
I think it happened to a lot of us, and
Yes, it did.
we
Yeah,
we had no recourse because you couldn't go to the cops. You
yeah,
can't go to the cops as
no,
a guy and say, "I've been raped,"
yeah,
because of the homophobia of the
yeah,
time. So
yeah,
you just deal with it. But I think it's very, very similar, and I think
yeah,
it gives people like you and I, with our work as well, a genuine feminist insight into,
mhm,
even though we're in many ways almost parodying femininity, I
mhm.
think it is also really equally applicable to ourselves,
Yeah,
and I think that you know I can't speak for you, but for myself, a lot of my work is it's still me, even
yeah,
though that's Sylvain or
right,
Severin. It's me,
yeah,
and I'm I think that gay men and the way that they treat other gay men, especially disempowered,
mhm,
twinks or
yeah,
whatever. I mean, it's equally terrifying as if
yeah.
you were a young girl or a woman with less power. It's very there's a lot of I'm really glad you brought that up. I think it's a really important thing that people don't really discuss.
And you brought up a really important part of it, which is when something terrible like that happens to a woman can go to the police, go, whatever. When that happens to a young gay male, we don't have anywhere to go, especially at that time period. It's
Yeah,
like, what are we going to do? Who are we going to tell? No one's going to care. We're the bottom. I felt like, at least for what my experience was growing up, being gay, I was at the bottom of the barrel of everything. Just being gay in general, and this is before things started opening up and evolving, where we get Ellen on the television, or we get Will and Grace, where people are like, "Oh, I love gays; they're funny," and people start opening up and things start evolving. But before that, that very, and that was a very important time of my discovering who I am and everything. And during that time period beforehand, you literally are the lowest of the low. So it's you're not only treated by society because I was always open. I was always out. I came out when I was 12 years old. I didn't know how to lie about who I was or anything. I just was who I was and I was out. And there were a lot of repercussions to that and how society treated me and how people treated me. And so I think all of that kind of really is it harbored in my artwork as well. It's all part of who I am, and I hope that the gay youth these days don't ever have to experience what we had to. I'm sure they'll have their own things, but hopefully it's a lot safer environment these days than it was when we were growing up.
America and England also, I think, were different.
Yeah, yeah,
I mean, I know I was very lucky to have recourse to get to London very quickly from where I lived. I remember there was an old man that lived in the town that I grew up in the country, and he was quite like Quentin Crisp. He had like set hair, and he would wear androgynous clothes, and he would paint his toenails and his fingernails. And I remember everybody, really mocked him, and they were so cruel. And I used to think, why are you here? You've got to get to the city. If you don't get to the city, you're just going to be so unsafe.
yeah.
It's so important to escape the narrow, rigid confines of the kind of prejudices that I know still exist. I mean, I remember once having this customer, and he would say to me, when you send me the dolls, can you put a different, I can't remember how he wanted me to do it. He didn't want his own name on the parcels because his neighbors were so nosy,
Yes, yeah.
and he was ashamed
Mm.
of, oh my God. I mean,
I've experienced that as well. I've had people have me change the name or have me say, please, this is going to my office. Please do not, anything doll related or anything on the package. Please don't, and so I was like, oh yeah, of course, I respect that. But yeah, it still exists. People are still concerned about that, how it looks to them.
no, and it's terrible.
Mhm.
Um, on the one hand, I have compassion.
Yeah,
I don't have any empathy for that
yeah,
because why would you care what anybody thought of you?
yeah,
It's such a sticky topic
yeah,
that I know we can't go there, but
yeah,
I
yeah.
wish they would just learn to leave us alone.
Yes, yes. And just, I mean, at this point in time, how far away we are from the caveman, why are we not able to just live our authentic lives and enjoy them as long as they're not, ruining someone else's time? Everyone should be able to enjoy their own authentic lives the way that they see it?
It's really extraordinary that people feel that they have a right to have any kind of opinion or any
Oh,
right to
yeah.
interfere in anybody else's
Color,
life. Our
sex,
bodies are our own.
yeah, yeah,
We have ultimate right to do whatever we want with our own vehicle, our body,
yeah,
and
yeah.
so I just don't understand it, and I don't understand these ever more rigid ideas of gender and these labels. I mean, why do you have to be one thing? Why can't you be lots of different things? I mean, we're all more than just one person. We have, different versions of ourselves that we
Well,
present to different people in different ways
exactly.
under different circumstances. I mean, why narrow
Yeah.
anything? Why not just open everything up so that we can be really free of all of this?
And during a time period where I know the US is dealing with a lot of, houselessness, and, people that don't have homes. And what we're focusing on is demonizing trans people who are 3% of the population who are just trying to live their authentic lives. But they decide, the government decides to demonize them. So everyone's looking at that and they're not looking at everything else that's going, on around us that we should be putting our power and work into. They're taking the time and but that's the way it has been for queer people for a very, very long time. I mean, we suffered as people, and I feel like we were coming to a point where we were evolving and the world was seeing us as people and as equals, and now we're taking this huge step back, and that's horrifying to me watching that happen. I can only hope that we'll be able to move through this quickly and without very many war wounds, and be able to thrive again as not only as queer people but as people in general, not having to live in fear of being who you are.
Absolutely, and the whole trans thing is just a reinvention of homophobia. And of
Yeah,
course, it's perfectly acceptable or more acceptable to be, a cis, a gay male.
yeah,
It's really also misogyny
yeah,
because, you can never underestimate the level of misogyny in our culture.
exactly.
So, it's fine to be like like I said, like a cis male queer guy, but if you're effeminate or oh no, they
Yeah,
don't like it, makes them uncomfortable
yeah,
because they hate women because there's incredible misogyny. It's
yeah,
ultimately that um it makes people, I don't know why it makes people uncomfortable. Recently I had
yeah,
my roofer, this guy Gary, is a really nice guy. This just like really like straight
yeah,
roofer,
yeah.
but he's not going to hear this, so I can say this. Um, but it was really interesting because he was really honest with me about his attraction to trans women, and I found hope in that. I
Yeah,
thought, he feels really comfortable telling me about it.
yeah,
He explained it really well, and uh, he explained a lot of ideas that I didn't completely understand,
yeah,
which I don't want to talk about because I don't want to accidentally offend
yeah,
anybody.
yeah.
But it because there is a fetishistic aspect to it.
Yes, yeah,
But oh, I don't know. AIDS did such a lot to break down the permissive society.
yeah,
Things. I'm just. I'm just old enough to remember, like Mel, when there was a moment there where people really were beginning not to care, and
yeah,
everything was mixed up. You didn't go to gay bars. The scene was all mixed, and you didn't know who you were going to end up in bed with, and it was you didn't, people didn't want to talk about it for the simple reason that we already had started to feel that we'd broken down those barriers
right.
about about all of that. And oh yes, it's really become so regressive, hasn't it? And there's nothing more offensive than the self-internalized homophobia that you sometimes encounter in certain types of
Yeah,
gay men. It's
yeah.
revolting.
It's revolting. Yeah, yeah. Especially, I think I bringing that up, and we probably will move on from this discussion, but I had a lot of anger because I came out at a very young age. I mean, I just was always me. So I was, and I was out at 12. And
Which is
I,
super fucking admirable.
well, when I would see,
Super fucking admirable.
thank you. And when I got older and was like in my 20s, and I would meet so many gay males that were still hiding, that weren't out, or, whatnot. And at the time, I felt very angry at them because
Yeah.
I thought, you're the problem. Because if you also were brave enough to live your true, authentic life and to be out and whatever, that ripple effect would be happening within your family, where either they get it eventually or they don't, but that's the reality. And then the people that you're affecting, by the fact that you're hiding all of this, is diminishing the work that I'm putting in, just being my authentic self. And it would anger me. And it took me years to have the compassion and to be empathetic and to be like, okay, we all have different upbringings, surroundings, different ways of handling or dealing with things, and they're going at a different pace than I did, or they're frightened or whatnot, and that's okay. But it took me a long time to feel empathetic at all. I had so much anger towards the people that were still wanting to dabble in that world and use you, but also to hide it all from everybody. And I never understood that, you know?
It's cowardice,
Yeah, yeah,
and also they ain't fooling anybody. I mean,
yeah,
men know. They know
yeah,
if we're queer or not,
yeah,
and our families know.
yeah,
So I've got a very unpopular theory, which is that it isn't necessarily homophobia. It's a disrespect, a justifiable disrespect for people who lie.
yeah,
Because the amount of times
yes,
I've been in a
yes,
taxi and the cab driver said something about queer, and I'm like, well, actually, mate, your customer's queer, so
right,
watch it. And then like there'll be a pause,
yeah,
and then they're like, oh, well, my cousin's gay and he's really great, and
right,
then
right.
they'll just start talking about whatever else they were talking about. They don't
Yeah,
care.
yeah,
And I remember once. Another example was I was going to this gym and there was this guy, and I hadn't done anything that denoted my sexuality with this particular guy. There was no reason
hmm,
for him to make this observation, but he was talking to me and he was saying, "Oh God, I've got to go home to my wife, and oh, we've just had a baby, and she's always depressed, and oh, the baby's always screaming." And then he looked at me and he said, "Not that any of that's ever going to affect you, mind you." So he totally had my number.
yeah,
And
yeah.
I think that, a lot of gay guys think that they're not readable, but they are.
They are.
They're not
Yeah,
fooling anyone.
yeah,
There's
exactly.
no point in being in the closet.
Really, they're only lying to themselves. Yeah, yeah,
Also, I think that a lot of homophobia isn't actually to do, I think a lot of it is misogyny, because I think what offends people more is effeminacy. They
yes, yes,
they aren't comfortable with effeminacy.
yeah,
And
yeah,
that includes, more than anything, a lot of gay men themselves
yeah,
who hate
yeah,
effeminacy, and they hate the female in themselves.
yeah,
Whereas I feel like I'm a very, very female man,
yeah,
and I really embrace and love that about myself.
yeah,
And I just wish people would just loosen up and
yeah.
just
Learn to
be
love
yourself.
themselves and to also accept others for who they are. Yeah. Um, so on your journey, what do we expect as fans from of you? What are we expecting to see in the future? Is there anything that you can give us, any little like tidbits or teasers or anything
Yeah,
about what the
sure.
future looks like?
I don't think I really succeeded well in doing a vinyl doll. I'd like to have another go at a vinyl doll.
Hmm.
But I think there's one thing that you and I have in common, and that's that we can spread ourselves a bit thin. We
Then,
can take on a lot and find it difficult. Uh, I mean, yeah, I'd still like to do a vinyl doll, but I'm committed to this Lalka project, and it's a lot of work, and
mm,
um, but then uh, I'm not just in this for the money. I mean, to begin with, I wasn't in it for the money at all.
Yeah.
But times are hard on the boulevard, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And what about you? I mean, I've always thought it'd be a great idea if you did, and I said this to you before, a doll with rooted hair.
Yeah, I'm working on it's hard for me because as an artist, I'm not a PR person. I'm not and when you're in the spot where I'm at, where I can't just pay people to do the work for me. I can't afford to be like, I need PR, I need, whatever, I need whatever. I have to learn how to embody that and do that all by myself. And so
Same.
I, yeah, I'm working on talking to a friend about, or we've been talking, Mike Buse, who did Fabiola, is going to
Oh
help
yeah, yeah,
me.
yeah, 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 yeah.
Yeah, and so we're working on getting a vinyl Mary out there. And then in the meantime, uh,
Yes.
I'm besides that project, I have a really fabulous queer project I've been working on behind the scenes for a really long time. That's going to be very different because it's going to be larger dolls. They're 14 inches, and it's going to be mainly male dolls with just a couple female characters, but a big male cast, and that are going to be very they're space themed, but going to be very queer and fun. And that's a passion project I've been working on behind the scenes. But I'm going to be also doing the factory right now, is producing 15 and a half inch Miss Mary dolls that are jointed.
Oh,
So it's a different thing for me because even though I have experience with ball jointed dolls and I've even made a few ball jointed dolls to play around with or have fun with myself, it's my first time doing a ball jointed doll with the factory, and the jointing and all of that is so much different than what I do at home with myself because the factory has to mold it and all of that. So I've been having the fun and very long dance with the factory on getting those good to go, but they will happen eventually. But I'm just going to do a very limited run of one of a kind dolls in that size and then see from there if that's something that people are attracted to. Yeah.
that sounds really exciting. I'm really looking forward to seeing that. But
Thank you.
we'll talk some more like
Yeah, we'll
privately
talk
because
privately.
you know
Yeah.
I'm quite serious about that whole survival thing.
Me too. I didn't want to like be like, I'll edit. Yeah, I'm very into that idea, Julian. I'm very into that idea.
Joe, I want to ask you some questions. I want to know what is your favorite, your top five favorite dolls ever.
Okay, my top five, and
Yeah.
and don't question, don't question my sincerity in this because you're in that list. So don't question my sincerity on that. But my top dolls are Barbie,
Which
G.
Barbie? Which I want to know which one.
Oh, specific. Okay, gotcha.
Specific. Yeah, yeah, real specific.
Okay, so it's going to be really strange. It's a strange answer. So my nostalgic attachment to Barbie lies with Pink and Pretty because that was the first doll in my childhood that I saw in the store and was like, I need this doll. I have to have her. And I convinced my grandmother into buying her for me. And I had her for a weekend until my parents came to pick me up, and she went straight to the Goodwill and torn out of my bawling hands,
Is that what
I,
they did?
oh yeah, I couldn't have dolls. Yeah. So
So what? Oh my God.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So so that was my like first like real like thing with Barbie. But my mom had a number one Barbie booklet in her vanity drawer, in her vanity. And as a young kid, I would sit and play on her vanity, and I'd go through her drawers, even though she'd yell at me and say to leave her stuff alone. I'd always be going through her vanity drawers. And so I found this hot pink, Barbie booklet in there, and I just remember obsessing over those illustrations. So the ponytail Barbie, especially 1 through 4, that grouping of ponytail Barbies, that's probably my favorite. Like, that's what really resonates with me. I love how classy, I love how quality, they feel like you've bought something from Paris. Like they feel very special and whatnot. I love all of the mod era stuff is amazing, but that wasn't, as a child, that wasn't my first view of Barbie or my experience. But then of course, Jean is huge for me. Jean really was, I was a teenager when Jean came out, and I just really connected with Jean a lot, and I loved her. So I would say Barbie, Jean, Blythe, were big in my life. And when Severin came out, I felt very, I already felt connected in the sense that I'd known your work and kind of knew you a little bit through Ernesto at that point. We hadn't really started chatting, until right after that happened. I think it was like right around that same time where we connected and started chatting. But she definitely, when she came out for me, that's like the RGG, when you mentioned the RGG as like maybe something new that kind of like draws, intrigue or interest. And Severin did that for me because she wasn't, she was her own character. She wasn't Lalka or Lily. She was her own, like, powerhouse. And because, like I said, there was nothing like her. And so I really connected hugely with her through Ernesto's photographs, and what you were doing. I just really loved her. And then the last of the five of like inspirations, even though I have a billion different things. I mean, I was very into, not Leggy, not Hasbro Leggy herself, but I love the Japanese fashion doll. So I was very obsessed with, Takara Barbie and Maba Barbie and all of those. But this company, they did a doll, Rainbow Chan, but they also did this version for the Japanese people of Leggy, Ashinaga,
Did
and
they?
and
I don't know
yes,
it.
and she to me is, I don't know why she's so magical, but she's really magical to me. I
You have
love
to send me some photos because I
the
don't know.
yeah, she probably wouldn't be exactly anything like you would be imagining. But
But
she
I
just
love Leggy. I love
unique,
Leggy.
and she was very unique and special. So I have a ton of them now because I started on, Yahoo Japan and like different places, and you have to spend a crazy amount of money ordering through services that are ordering dolls from sites on Japan. It's this weird little third party thing that I had to go through to like obtain a lot of my Japanese fashion dolls that I love so much. But as far as top five dolls are concerned, that would be my list of top fives. Yeah.
I mean, I like all of those too.
Yeah.
Yeah. I guess
Did
mine
you were
are.
you inspired at all by Kmart? Did you connect with Kmart at all? Like I know Thanos really connects with Kmart a lot. Mhm.
What those like? Oh, what those
Those
funny kind
Blythe, they're
of.
kind of like Blythe typey
Oh yeah, I
60s.
know. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
No,
Yeah, not your thing. Yeah.
no. I did get into Blythe, and
Yeah.
I like his I like his aesthetic. But no, I never got into those ones.
Yeah.
But then, do you know what? I don't think I've ever been offered one, so I don't think I've ever held one. So I might like
Right.
one.
Right.
Um,
I just know that you like a lot of unique foreign fashion dolls. And probably a lot of it because of growing up in the UK, you had access to, because Germany and France are so close, you had access to a lot of oddball fashion dolls like Bella
No,
and
I
like,
didn't know about those dolls until years later. I never saw them.
okay, okay.
I
Yeah,
remember Blythe in the shops,
yeah,
and I didn't actually like Blythe when I was a kid. It got on my nerves that she has such a big head and such a
yeah,
small body. But
yeah,
I love her now.
yeah.
But not the Kenner ones. I like the ones like Mondrian and
Right, right. The Takara
those ones,
ones.
the
Yeah,
BL ones. Yeah.
yeah.
Uh, my favorite doll is Sasha.
Oh, I love Sasha. I mean, she's amazing. I love the fact that she could be she's so that time period where it was very like simple, but that like tan skin with the contrast of the blonde hair or whatever, and that very just simple paint job makes them look like a child of the 70s. It's this very like they're very nice dolls. I really like them too.
Joey, do you know the early ones are hand painted and they're really weird, and
Yeah.
they're like the eyebrows are a bit like number one Barbie eyebrows. I'll send you some photos later
Yeah, I would
because
love to see
if
the
I hold one up, it's not going to register. But
yeah.
I collect the very early ones, and I love them. I
Yeah.
love Sasha. Also, because when I was a kid, my sister Basha, who was my kind of, she was, she knew exactly who I was and what I was before I did, and she was, she was really, really good to me. On
Yeah.
that, it's very important when you're heterosexual children take it for granted that when they're 5, they're going to be accepted.
Right.
We can't, queer
Right.
children can't. But Sebastian was really great, and she would take me to this shop in London called the Design Centre, and they sold beautiful, mid-century furniture. But amongst it were the Sasha dolls, and the whole shtick was that they were unisex, which was
Yeah.
a late '60s term where, we were already trying to break down barriers with,
Right. Gender roles
unisex
and
clothing, and they were unisex dolls, so they could be a boy or a girl. And
yeah.
I loved that idea. I thought, wow, that's because that's me.
Yeah.
And isn't that regressive that like that's going on in like 1965?
Yeah.
And here we are in 2026,
I
and
know.
we have what's going
I
on?
know. I know. Well, hopefully it'll turn around soon. So
Well,
so working with vinyl, and then do we have any um you're working on the Lalka project, your book. We haven't talked at all about your book, Julian, which I'm super,
oh,
super freaking excited about.
thank you. That was such a shock. I mean, Dieter contacted me about, I don't know, April last year or something, and he said he wanted to do a book. And I thought, oh, yeah, sure. Who wants to do a book about me? I thought, that's not going to happen. Because I thought, who the fuck is going to buy a book about me,
I would.
And, but I know, you're a darling. And incidentally, any of you out there who say that you're my friends and you didn't buy my book, you're marked for death.
Exactly. Exactly.
And you know who you are.
Right.
So, yeah, I was shocked when when it actually happened. And Focky did the layout, Focky that does the graphics
Yeah.
for me, the German, he's Dutch. He's genius. And I love the fact that, you know, different people were involved. So it wasn't just about my dolls, but it was other people's interpretation of them.
Yeah.
And Dieter really jumped off a cliff because I think it's quite a strange book, and I'm pleased with it.
Yeah.
I'm really pleased with it.
Oh, it's so beautiful. I love that.
It's
And I
like a
love the
chocolate
pink and
box.
blue. It's
Yeah,
beautiful.
and the color's beautiful.
Yes.
So, and then they finally brought out a book about Greer Langton, my heroine.
Yes.
Isn't
Oh,
that?
that's
But isn't that terrible that it took all this time for
it
them
took,
to do a book
yeah.
on her?
Yeah. I mean, that's how it goes. Most artists don't ever see their impact until after they're dead, and then, you know.
That's it's terrible, right? Why
It's
isn't there more
terrible.
support in our community?
Exactly. Well, and that's why, too, doing this channel, I feel like it's so important to, advertise the indie doll, and also we're the artists, we're the people that are actually putting the compassion, the love, the detail into these dolls. Whereas, I respect Barbie collectors. I'm a Barbie collector too, but people are talking about rare Barbie dolls that there were thousands and thousands made. I think I just had said the other day to a friend, like, with eBay, number one Barbies, yes, they're elusive in the sense that, they're iconic and people are willing to spend a lot of money on them. But you go on to eBay at any point in time, and there are numerous number one Barbies on eBay. They aren't rare necessarily. And so, what I feel like is so important is for people to realize that these dolls that we're making are, I mean, you're getting one of these dolls, they're hand touched by the artist. They are, and they're conceptualized by the artist. They're, all these things. And so you're getting so much more, something that's so much more special and has so much more value than, oh, I just got the new, Stevie Nicks Barbie, and thank God, they made 500 billion of them, but everybody wanted one and I got one. Great. I think it's so important for people to understand and realize that the art, how important the artistry is, not just collecting mass produced dolls. And I think that that's why there's a lot of people out there already who have really glommed onto the indie doll and are collecting art dolls in their collection because they realize that those are the dolls that are going to hold the value, that are going to, and not only that, but the dolls that I feel like you're going to resonate and connect with because they are so special.
I couldn't agree more. And I think
Yeah.
that, if we've got a mission of any sort, Joe, it's to break down these kind of boundaries between
Yeah.
um, you know, dolls and art, and to make people to make it a clearer vision that
Yeah.
there's that we're not just there's a lot of content,
Yeah.
a lot goes into it. It's and absolutely, as you say, they're handmade,
Yeah.
and we both work. It's not
Well, and
what's
you
the word?
brought up art,
It's not immodest to say that
yeah.
we both work incredibly hard. We know
Very
we do.
hard. Yeah. And I mean, when you speak about the art world, I think I had mentioned this to you last time we talked. In the cinema world, the horror category is not considered for, awards. Like, you can't win the award for being the best actress in a horror film. And I feel like dolls are that same thing where people aren't understanding that dolls are art. They are looking at dolls as a completely different thing than what they are. Yes, dolls can be child's playthings, but the indie dolls are art. They are just as legitimate as a painting hanging in a gallery, as a doll, a indie doll standing on a stand in a gallery. They are they're purposeful. They are art, you know, and I think that it's people's understanding of that is growing more and more, you know.
I
What's
think
the
they
difference?
encompass so much in
Yeah.
terms of medium.
Yeah.
They encompass
Painting,
painting,
sewing, sculpting.
sculpture,
Yes. Yeah.
and
Patterning. The
there's
whole
so
works.
much that goes
Yeah.
into the character of a doll. I mean,
Engineering,
the
just
movies we
engineering.
watch,
Yeah. Yeah.
what we read, there's
Yeah.
so much content. There's so much more content in a doll, for me, as far as
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
concerned, than there is in a painting.
Yes.
Um,
Yeah.
but I think I don't want to sound pretentious, but I think we're pioneers, and I
Yeah.
think that it's going to take off and be recognised as the respected medium that it
Mhm.
ought to be. It's
Yeah.
just that people haven't really been exposed to it enough yet to really
Yeah.
grasp it.
Yeah.
I mean, very few people.
But I
I
feel
can
like
never
that's
tell people what I do for a living. If people say, "What do you do?" I say, I'm a painter and decorator." Because what else can I say? I paint and and I decorate. Because if I say I'm a doll maker, they're like, "What do you mean a doll maker?" I don't know. Are you making any money from that? They don't understand what I'm doing, and I
right.
don't want to sit there and like. And then
Yeah.
they always say, "Hey, it's a Barbie." Well, no, it's not.
Yeah.
But it's changing. But it's
It's
up to
changing, and I
us.
mean, I changed my name, you know, to Joey Dollmaker Versaw because I was I'm at a point in my life where I'm not ashamed of who I am. I'm not ashamed of what I'm doing. I love what I'm doing, and I've been doing this. I've been making dolls for the majority of my life, and I don't plan on stopping. So I thought, why am I not embracing this? And I decided, fuck it, you know, I'm gonna it's my name. I'm gonna put it in my name. It's like, you know, the peddler, the shoemaker, the whatever. I'm the doll maker, you know?
I like it. I like that. I like
And
that. I
and I
like
feel
that.
like, you know, you speak about pioneers, and yes, you know, I feel like you have really, you know, when I think of indie doll, which you know, I think of Billy Boy as kind of being with Midvani, kind of being the very first indie doll, because this is something where he's looking at something, then taking a concept and then creating something himself, not in a factory.
Yeah.
And here we have his doll. But I feel like
But he had immense, he had everything at his disposal.
oh yeah, I mean he already
You and I
designed a
have to
couple
work
Barbie
within
dolls.
the
Yeah.
limitations of the restrictions of our funding.
Yeah.
He had unlimited money to
Yeah.
do, you know, haute couture, and
Exactly.
he could
Exactly.
throw money at it.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
why, when I saw those dolls, and I like him and I
Yeah.
respect him very
Yeah.
much, and we can't help what we're born into. We
Yeah.
are what we are. But I thought when I saw Midvani that I would never be able to make dolls, because I thought I had to be rich and a child of privilege to be able
Right.
to have that
Right.
um, possibility.
Yeah.
But you and I have proven that we don't. You
No.
don't. It's
No.
like punk.
Yeah.
You're not restricted
Yeah.
in that regard. The
And when
only
you
thing that
had your
restricts you
show,
is your own imagination.
yeah, and when they had the gallery showing of your dolls in LA, I was like, yes, like this is amazing. This is what it should be. This is a
Thank you.
spectacle, and that's what the art of doll should be. It should be a spectacle, right? It should be an event, and I thought, you know,
I
here
was
here
so lucky. That was such good luck.
but it's wonderful because once again, it's showing the pioneer that you are, that other people are looking at what you're doing and resonating with that and being like, this is really special. Like this is something that has to be, you know, out there, not just as a doll, but like, you know, as art. And so I really feel like you were able to kind of break through that wall And it's just going to continue, with your book, with everything going on, it's just going to continue and grow because people are realizing, that they maybe if they maybe they'll spend their money on some produced Barbie and stuff that hits their liking, but they're also putting their eyes towards art dolls, and you're such a huge part of this becoming the phenomenon that it is. And now we have all these kids that are coming up with 3D printers and with whatnot, and they're making their own dolls, and they're and it's amazing where the world has brought us. But as far as like pioneering, yes, you are one of the great pioneers in this industry, and that has kept this ball rolling and has also caused an evolution.
That is so lovely of you. Thank you so much for saying that. It's just so sweet of you. Thank you. But I mean, I'm going to take it. I mean, I can take a compliment, but it was just I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't really think about it. Really, I just did it. I didn't have anything better to do. I couldn't think of anything else to do. So I
How
guess I
very
was.
punk of you, Julian.
I guess I was born to it. I don't know
Yeah,
why I did it.
yeah,
But I have to. I really have to give a lot of credit to Liz Lee because. Liz isn't really in the book because she didn't want to be involved in the book. But I want to say that without her immense courage, because she is a really, really don't give a fuck character, and there ain't a lot of those around in life. And I wouldn't have made dolls unless I'd met her.
Wow. So she
Yeah,
really
she,
like how,
she
yeah,
was she was the Bonnie to my Clyde, or
yeah,
the Clyde to my Bonnie,
yeah.
whatever. But we needed each other. We really did. I
Well,
wouldn't
it's
have made
it's
dolls if I hadn't
community.
known.
Yeah, I mean it's community, right? We have just like we have in the queer queer community, we have doll community, and what maybe people don't realize is a lot of us artists are friends and know each other personally, and we talk to each other about what we're doing and our ideas and whatnot. Not only because we're colleagues and we have respect for each other, and we want to encourage each other, and also we don't have anyone to talk about who understands exactly what we're doing or what we're going through. And I always thought that our camaraderie as artists was so important because also as artists we can have the same inspiration for something that just hits us in the middle of the night, and we think we have this most amazing idea, right? And we're inspired, our muse is hit, and we're on fire, and then we talk to our artist friend, and they're like, "Oh, well, I'm working on the same thing." And then realize, okay, well, collectively we share this energy, and a lot of us pull from similar, inspirations or whatnot, but we all do it so differently. It doesn't
Yeah.
it doesn't matter because nobody can do Julian like Julian. No one can do Joey like Joey, no one can do Nav
Nav, we've
like
got to mention
Nav.
Nav, how
Yes.
beautifully Nav did Anouk, and
Yeah.
you know that he how brilliantly conceptualized it
Yeah.
was, that it was like a product from the 60s
Yeah.
that had already existed, and he
Yes. Yeah.
presented it so well,
Yeah.
and those beautiful booklets, and the very, very kind of opposite to me, because I'm all over the place, but
Well,
so
his dolls are the good
specific.
girls. They're the good
Hmm?
girls. His dolls are the good girls.
Well, Fan, is actually in my top 5 favorite
Oh, I
dolls.
love that. I
I
love that.
love Fan. I'm a
Yeah.
big. I really, I think, yeah, I think the more interesting doll for me is Fan.
Yeah.
But and I
I'm
know
excited
actually.
because I'll be interviewing him next week, so I'm really excited about that as well. Yeah.
Well, I mean, that's so interesting. His background,
Mhm.
growing up Indian,
Mhm.
in England. Yeah, I mean, he's got a lot of guts doing
Yeah,
what he did. He
yeah,
had a fucking brilliant factory though, didn't he?
yeah, beautiful.
And the same guy had the same factory, Chemo Ben. Remember
And
when he
chemo,
did?
uh-huh.
I
Mamselle and
preferred
yeah.
your version of Heroes
Oh, thank
personally
you.
because you imbued it with more of the integrity of the actual original concept
Yeah,
of her.
yeah, yeah.
Because there was, she was an adult
Mhm.
idea for a doll, and
And
I
she was a
thought that,
sex object. I mean, his
yeah,
art was in porn magazines. I mean, it was kitschy and fun, and they were naked a lot. And when I saw the original Karaz dolls and the Mamselle dolls, I was like, they're so cute, but they're cute. They're like a Blythe doll, and but his drawings were more sexual
yeah,
than
they're more
that.
smutty, yeah.
Yes, and so I was like, no, she needs to be in see-through tops with their little nipples showing through, and like,
You make
yeah.
beautiful outfits. I loved your color
Thank you.
choices and your
Yeah.
textile choices. I love those, those sheer
Yeah.
fabrics that
Tricotta.
you used. I
Yeah.
thought they were
Yeah.
really, really gorgeous. Yeah, I just like to find a factory that can just do something really basic and,
Yeah.
with Ruth's hair because I don't want to be gluing lily hair behind a paper.
When I did those retro Miss Marys with the viscose ponytails, um I hated every minute of it. I thought to myself, Julian, you are a saint to be able to have the patience to work with hair like that, with glue and hair. My fingers are just covered in glue and hair. I wanted
Yeah,
to
it's dirty work,
scream.
isn't it?
You
It's
you get
dirty
one
work.
little
Yeah,
accidental touch of glue or something on the hair
yeah.
and it's
Yeah.
ruined and like it's a mess. I hated it.
Well, I'm really lucky because I've got Neelan, my assistant, and he does the hair, and
Ah, you're
he's
so
fabulous.
lucky.
He's from Nepal, so
Yeah,
he's really calm and
yeah,
spiritual and gentle, and he's really clever, and he likes doing the hair. So,
yeah.
because I hate doing the hair.
Well, that I didn't know. I wish I'd thought of being able to like have someone else do the hair for me. Instead, I'm like, I wanted to give her those poodle bangs, and nobody can do those poodle bangs right. Not even Mattel these days can get those poodle bangs right. And so I'm sitting here with that viscose material,
Were you
practicing
using
all
like
these.
cocktail sticks to do the little
Yeah,
girl?
yeah, and wind and wind and wind and wind.
Yeah.
And so, and each one is like individually like placed and curled and everything. And the end results I thought were beautiful. I thought they turned out really stunning, but I couldn't continue making them myself because it's too much work and not enough money back, and I just don't have the time to put into to do that.
People can have no comprehension of how much work we put into this stuff.
Yeah,
There really
yeah,
is so much work in it. But, what's the alternative? I'm going to work in the coffee shop around the corner, at
exactly.
62. What else am I going to do? I mean, it's on the whole, it's been good for us, huh? It's been
It
good to
has.
us, yeah. And
Yeah.
people are nice. Most people, I'd say
Mhm.
99% of the people that I've dealt with are really nice
Yeah, yeah,
and
I agree.
supportive.
I
It's
agree.
been very rare that I've had an encounter with anybody that wasn't anything other than that.
No, and I mean my only thing, through history with doll people and other artists is like maybe a squabble would happen that would happen with siblings or friends or anyone else, where there's like moments of disagreements or whatnot. Like
Well,
I've,
we squabbled. We had a squabble. We didn't speak for ages
yeah, yeah, years.
over nothing. I was
Yeah.
out
Three,
drinking with my friend Wacker, and
like
and
3 years.
I
Yeah.
was just over. I was just overreacted. Sorry, Joey.
No, you don't.
But we're made up now. And
Yeah,
this
and
is
I love
great.
you, and I never, and even in that moment of the of separation, I never stopped loving you or having admiration for what you did, and
And
so it
I
was
never
so,
stopped either with you because
yeah,
we're both got Ernesto is she's our mother. Ernesto is our mother.
yeah.
God, can you imagine how much you hate us saying that?
I mean, he kind of is. He.
Take that so much. But yeah, I mean, Ernesto really is a wonderful. He's just such he's not just inspiring. He's just a sort of stability in
Yes.
being connected to him, and he really does. He is so knowledgeable, isn't he?
He's so knowledgeable, and he's, I mean, for me, I feel like he really is a rock. Like
Yes.
he's stable. He's stability, like you said. Like
Yeah.
I can rely on him. I know that he's going to give me honest feedback.
Yeah.
I know that he takes great care in what he says. He takes great care in what
Yes.
he is telling me when he's giving me advice. He's not just throwing it, to the wind. He takes great care in what he does. He's a very class act, man, and I feel really grateful and privileged to have him as a friend in my life because he really helped my growth and evolution.
Yeah, I adore him. He's got that
Yeah.
old world European charm about
Yeah.
him. As you say, he never says anything dumb. He always thinks about what he's saying.
Yeah.
He's very reasonable, but he's also very human. Because, like,
Yeah.
I've heard him really,
Oh
you
yeah.
know,
Yeah.
there's nothing, phony about him. He's
Yeah.
really human and down to earth,
Yeah.
as well as being, I think that's another aspect that should start to come more into our doll work is writing. And I think it would be great if there
Oh,
was more writing. I
I
think that
agree. I
a book
agree.
we've written, because Anissa's a great writer.
He is.
So there's so much scope in what we do that's unexplored still, Joey.
And I mean, and now with youth coming in and starting to make dolls and stuff, it's just going to evolve even more from that. There's so much to explore in the world of indie dolls, and I feel like I'm just really excited to be living in this time. Even though there's scary things going on, I'm still free to be me, and I'm still free to be a male that's designing and creating dolls. And I love this world. And even though I'm not as wealthy as I might like to be, because as an artist, people, may think that you're living it up, but as I could definitely be much more wealthy, but I feel so grateful and humbled to be able to be in the now and to be able to have the colleagues that I do have that are my friends, like you, like Nav, like Ernesto, like Mike Buse, all these people in the doll world. It takes a community, even artistry, our own artistry is helped by community and our friends, and people like Tanya Lawrence and whatnot. And I feel like it's so important to be able to be a part. I feel so blessed to be a part of that. Yeah.
Well, it's a movement.
Yeah.
It's like because no one's done this before. So, I don't want to sound pretentious and I'm just throwing it out there, but it's a bit like Dadaism
Yeah.
or Cubism or modernism. It's this thing that we've invented that we're experimenting with and exploring, and we're no one's done it before.
Yeah.
So there's no rule book, there's no guidebook, there's no one else to look to. It's just us,
Yeah.
and it's up to
Trial and
us to
error.
push it further
Yeah. Yeah.
because we've invented it.
Yeah. And I'm so excited to like watch your journey and to also, be your friend and be a part of that of being firsthand, being able to explore your journey and everything with you. And I cheers and here's to the future. I mean, we have really great things to look forward to and really
Oh,
fun
it's
new
all going to be
projects.
fabulous. I hope you get to interview Billy Boy. I think that it's
I wrote him. He read it. He left it on red, but we'll see, maybe he'll think about it, maybe he'll, respond. I don't know, but I did write him.
he's been so disrespected,
Hmm.
and I think that I wouldn't. I mean, I think I still would have done Lalka with Liz even without his knowing who he was. But
Right, right.
I wish, I wish so much good for him because people have just been so disrespectful towards somebody who was so masterful at their art and
Yeah,
and devoted so much to their craft and really did create something that truly hadn't existed before.
yeah,
I mean, to take those ideas of the French fashion doll of the late 19th century, like Brugernes and
Bluets.
Jumos, and to sort of cross that with this, kitsch, but also very sweet, but also this idea of fabulous luxury, of
Yeah,
it being the most expensive doll ever sold. I mean, he just did it with such panache,
yeah,
and he's been, terribly disrespected. I think whether he's a nice person or not, I think is irrelevant. I
yeah.
think, I
And
think the
I've
important.
always had a lovely experience with him. He's always been very kind and loving in our, correspondence to each other. I've never experienced anything else but kindness from him.
But he might agree to an interview.
Yeah. Well, regardless of what a people's opinions are, there's nothing that people can do to erase what he was able to create and the art that he brought to the world.
Absolutely agree.
Amazing.
Well, Joey, that was wonderful.
Thank you so
And thank
much,
you so
Julian.
much for inviting me on here. And I can't wait to see this.
Yes, yes.
And I can't wait to see who else you know, you interview. This is such a great medium.
Thank you. Well, I'm
And it's
excited
been,
too.
such a good conversation. We've gone, you know, into areas that aren't usually talked about in this.
Exactly. And I think that's important because that's all part of what has at least brought us as personal individuals into this world. It's our story, right? It's what we were living through and experiencing. And I think that that all paints a clear picture rather than just keeping it on the doll tip. It's like, no, as artists, the world was what was inspiring us, what we were living, what we were doing to create these dolls. So those stories are so important.
Yes, and
Yeah.
you're in this sense being not just the doll maker but a historian because we've got to catch all this before it
Yes.
all evaporates into
Gone.
the mists of
Exactly.
time and it'll be forgotten.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
We're not going to be forgotten, Julian.
well,
We may not
I
be remembered for what we want to be remembered for, but we won't be forgotten.
we've got to make sure that we're not.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, I love you so much.
I
Thank you
love
so
you
much.
too. And
And
that was wonderful. Really, I was so nervous when we started, and thank you so much for putting me at ease. And
yeah, of
what a
course.
what a what a lovely experience. Thank you so much.
It was wonderful. Thank you so much, Julia, and have a wonderful day. And we'll talk
Evening.
soon. Cheers.
Yeah, we'll be in contact later. Yeah.
Yeah,